Hello, everyone, and welcome into Smashbox TV's podcast 449. I'm your host, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, along with Johnny V.
I wasn't sure if you were going to make it tonight, Terry Miller. Because
I'm going to make it everywhere. Don't you worry.
We're supposed to get some nasty storms in the area, maybe just a little bit south of us. It depended on a little bit. We had, I think, more along the Wisconsin-Illinois border. It looked like it got pushed. They were threatening to come a little north. It looks like they're going to stay south.
Well, I just spoke with someone in Illinois, and they said they were currently under a tornado watch.
And I told you this afternoon. I said, Terry, if you want to call in from home, you're welcome to do that. I would completely understand.
I'd rather be in the basement. I mean, if you really think about it.
I mean, look at my basement. You're not wrong. This is a bunker.
So we're here. And welcome in, as I said, tonight we're going to have probably a couple of special guests. Well, they're both special in their own way. We're going to probably have two guests, and one of them is getting in a better position for us. That is the six-time world champ, Paul McBeth. Him and Hannah had a strategic conversation as to where Paul should set up and what was going to be the best scenario. And when it was all said and done, it sounds like Hannah's solution is going to win out. So we do appreciate that they're doing that in order to give us a little bit better quality. So they're going to be joining us in, he is going to be joining us in approximately 15, maybe 20 minutes. So we'll be able to cover a few other things that are going on. We can talk about that, and then we'll have Paul. And then after we talk to Paul, the caretaker, one of the caretakers that we've seen taking care of Paul and Dylan's property over there at the Grand Canyon course, is none other than our Throwdown the Mountain tournament director in Michael Barnett. He's going to also join us. And what I'll be interested to see or hear is what Paul says, and then what Mike has to say, and how much those two align one way or another when it's all said and done. But nonetheless,
I'm sure they're on the same track.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to talking with both of them here tonight. As we said, podcast 449, and here we are in the beginning of April. It feels a little cooler here. I was just in Florida for about 11 days or whatever it was. We've got another good friend that's there. And he claimed that he loves the heat. And I said, yeah, I can still take it or leave it. When you're pushing like mid to high 80s, well, mid 80s into low 90s or mid 90s, and it's only the end of March. Yeah, I'm not sure that's
it's a little gross. I mean, it was better than 40 and rainy here, but
okay. I guess it's all about perspective, right?
Correct. I didn't go outside, so it really didn't bother me either way.
All right. So let's start with, I'm going to go ahead while you're doing something else. I'm going to go ahead and get us started off with PDGA results. Of course, we're going to be talking about the Throwdown the Mountain and what was taking place there. There's a couple other A tiers that we can talk about. And honestly, a lot of these results are going to be new to me. I didn't even take a look at them myself. But I see over at the Daniel Bowe Memorial taking place this weekend out there in, I was going to say near San Diego. It says Escondido.
That could be anywhere in California.
No, that's right near San Diego. When it was all said and done, Drew Gibson, who I think it's right around his birthday, some social media post led me to believe that it's around his birthday. So if so, happy birthday to you, Drew. And with that, it's going to come a 7-stroke margin of victory. He takes down Andrew Miranda, and coming in third, Max Nichols. Fourth was Nick Newton. So congratulations to them on their top finishes. Over on the FPO side, Sheila May Lai, L-A-I. Either way, she is your champion, defeating Jennifer Allen, and doing so handedly. 8 strokes was the difference between the two of them. So congratulations to her. Elise Revelaeus? Yeah, we'll go with that.
You're knocking them out of the park.
I was just going to say.
You pick the worst. No, welcome to my world, Terry. Go get bent.
Oftentimes I know these people, and sometimes occasionally I don't, and they're all performing well. So Elise takes third. Violet Main actually tied her for third place. So congratulations to our top finishers there. And then I could have swore this guy said he would never play Masters, but now when he does, he wins. Steve Rico. Taking it down by a single stick in the MP40 division. In fact, spoiler, folks, in case you didn't get the coverage from the MP40 division, there was some clip that showed Rico making what I believe looked like a circle 2-ish putt for the win on the final hole. So under pressure, Steve Rico, a.k.a. Little Spoon, picking up the victory. He shot 21 under.
Yeah, but what, I mean, if we held that at Valley View, I could shoot 21 under. What are the ratings, though? I mean, that's,
I guess.
That's really what,
who cares about ratings?
Matters.
No one says they matter until they're shut out of a tournament. Anyway, when it was all said and done, it looks like Steve Rico, 998, 1,009, and a 1027 rated round.
Okay,
so,
those are pretty good.
Yeah.
I'll take those. I'd take those.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, definitely some pretty good shooting there out of Steve Rico. On the flip side, when you look at Drew Gibson, 1046, 1029, and 1051. All right, enough with all that number talk there. Let's head over to 40th Annual Dogwood Crosstown Classic. Doop, doop, doop. We'll click on that and tell you Dan Hastings took it down. Congratulations to Dan. Taylor Raffielowski took second place, and Evan Smith in third, Scott Conway in fourth. Ariel Walker took it down in FPO. Megan Goolsby took second, and Elaine King, third place in FPO. And, of course, we're going to share the love. One, Schwebby, Brian Schweberger, doubling up on his next closest competitor. Schwebby shot 22 under on the weekend. Brian Parker shot an 11 under on the weekend. So Schwebby picks up yet another win. What is that, 361 according to the PDGA list? I could have swore. Yeah.
Oh, wait, how many is that?
It says 361, and I was just trying to confirm if those were all professional wins or not. Nonetheless, win number 361 is what Schwebby's out there and going to tell us on the board. So congratulations to all of them. Let's move on. Skybreed Disc Open presented by Dynamic Discs. Saw that this weekend in MPO. Edward Ward took it down with a 5 under. Jared Stoll, who we saw, of course, with that overhand shot on 17 at Waco. Is that until he wins a DGPT event or a Worlds or something else, do we forever then associate him? I've known him, and he's been on my coverage, and he's, of course, a solid player, but is that kind of what he's known for now, is the guy that took the overhand on 17 at Waco?
Yes, he's going to be known for that for a little while yet.
Until?
I don't know. Until he does something
really
crazier.
Good or really bad.
Throws down a monster roller, or I don't know, Terry.
All right. Nonetheless, congratulations. He finished runner-up. Peyton Stamen, Elijah Bickle finish in a tie for third. So congrats to them. Moving down, Emily Beach, who is celebrating a birthday, I believe today specifically. So happy birthday to you, Emily.
Happy birthday, Emily.
And she, at least on here, yes, I did see actually another social media post about it. She went into a tie with Chantel Badinsky, Miss Frisbees, as you would know her from Instagram. She went into a playoff. They were tied, and when it was all said and done, Emily took it down. And Nina Guerrero took third. Erica Stinchcomb took fourth. When it's definitely one of her sponsors in Skybreed Discs as well. Sun King's Throwdown the Mountain, we'll talk about in a moment. We've got one more A tier
which
to
weekend
talk about.
for crying out loud?
I know.
That guy.
We're only going to talk about this weekend. It's the only one I was there for. So we're going to, that may change. We'll talk about an event in Idaho, another A tier. The Treasure Valley Cup presented by Innova Champion Discs, 208 Discs, and Shop Strange.
Too long of a name.
Dalen.
Dallin.
Yeah. Blanchard took down first place.
Dallin?
I feel don't make me
I'm going to go Dallin. I'm going to go Dallin.
First place, 23 under par. Ben Ditton finished in second at 17. Daniel Paff?
We're going to have Terry read all the names from now on, because I usually roll through names and you kind of chuckle at me, especially when we try to do overseas.
I only chuckle when I know the name and you don't. But in this case, you don't know any of these either.
No, I don't, but it's funny to watch you suffer.
You don't recognize them as much. All right. FPO, the Reaper, Carolina Halstead takes it down. Congratulations to her in her backyard over there. Well, I'll call all of Idaho her backyard. I don't know if that's fair or not, but we're going to call it. Emily Yale finished in second, and Karina Knowles tied Jeanette.
Cut him off.
Elia. I was already concentrating on the last name, and I screwed up the first name in doing so. So, yes, Jeanette.
Way to go.
Killing it.
We
Good
are.
thing I'm a professional broadcaster, or at least I play one on TV sometimes.
Mm.
All right. So, yeah, like you said, maybe this should be my new job week in and week out. Let's cut over to, we saw actually 3 different divisions. Throw down the mountain, and we'll talk to Mike Barnett a little bit later about more details. But when it was all said and done, there were 4 separate weekends that needed to happen for this Throw Down the Mountain to be run here in 2023. This was the 4th and final weekend that it was run. And this weekend, there were just 3 divisions that ultimately were available. And I'm going to click the right spot here, that were ultimately available. Of course, we're going to talk to our MPO champ, but I'm going to lead first with our MP40 champion, Matt Dollar, destroying the competition, shooting a 13 under. Just really impressive throughout the entire weekend, shooting 13 under. Ray Hill finished in a tie for second, along with Kevin McCoy, and Batman Dutch Napier finished in fourth. Oh my God. Finished in 4th.
So you're not broadcasting this weekend, though, right? So this is
That's why they have me on Tournament Central, so that I can botch everything on that side, because I've yet to screw up Tournament Central, and so hopefully it'll be my.
That's right. Mo doesn't love that show. Anyway.
All right. Over on FPO, which the footage is continuing to release, so plug your ears for 30 seconds if you don't want to hear what happens, because second round was just released. Third round will be released tomorrow, so spoilers coming. Finishing in 4th was Ellen Widboom. Finishing in 3rd was Jordan Linz. Finishing in 2nd was Morgan Linz. And winning in a playoff was Natalie Ryan. Natalie and Morgan went into what ultimately was a 1-hole playoff, and Natalie came out victorious. So,
and
congratulations.
With doing so, has earned herself a spot at Throw Pink.
Correct.
So there was one FPO spot for Throw Pink, which is an A tier, which means Natalie is eligible to play. So
Yes.
she will be going to, assumingly, going to the Throw Pink event come October.
Yes. And
Exciting.
4 spots available, I believe, on the MPO side for the USDGC. It was 4 or 5. At least 4. Was it 4?
Pretty sure it's usually 4 at every stop.
It used to be 5 for quite a few years.
But I'm pretty
at
sure
some
it's
events.
4.
Okay,
At least for these.
I don't know. I wasn't there.
The last 2 events have been 4 because I looked the other day.
Okay. So let's go ahead and give you our top few finishers on MPO. Your champion, Paul McBeth. Sullivan Tipton finishing 2nd, a.k.a. Sully. Joseph Anderson, a.k.a. Joey Buckets, finishes in 3rd. Thomas Gilbert had...
A.k.a. Tommy G.
Tommy G, T. Gilly, Tomcat. He's got a bunch of nicknames as well.
Right.
He had one hell of a day on Sunday to close things out. Not only did he shoot a 12 under, which tied for the hottest round of the weekend, but he earned himself a spot in the USDGC and
Technically a course record.
and a little skip ace action.
Hey, you know me. I love my skip ace.
I feel like you should pay him a bonus, $100.
It wasn't
Canadian.
on camera.
Canadian.
That's like 12 cents.
So Thomas Gilbert skip aces hole number 7 during the final round. So congratulations to him. He finished in 4th.
And he got a sliver out of Paul McBeth's hand. You think he kept that? This is the sliver I dug out of Paul McBeth's hand.
I've got a story about that in a minute.
Oh.
All right.
Is that an after-show story? Or
Maybe.
is it...
And tying for 5th, Dylan Sepola, who I met the weekend before playing at when he had played at Tallahassee. Aiden Scott, who I met and covered at Tallahassee the weekend before and spelled his name incorrectly. And Braden Sides, who I met and covered the weekend before at Tallahassee. So people talk about weekends off. People talk about where our top competitors are. Just know that when you're seeing these guys on footage and on coverage, and they're on the top card or 2 at an A tier this weekend, that means they're right around the corner from creeping onto DGPT A tier or DGPT Elite Series cards and Silver Series wins. So in 2 months, when we see Braden Sides, I'll just use one of those 8 guys. You see one of those guys taking down a Silver Series event. You're like, oh yeah, I saw that. I saw
on
him.
Terry's coverage.
Yeah, not just on my coverage, but the fact that you've at that point had seen him play on something, and it warms my heart in a very special way to meet. And The other kicker about a lot of these gentlemen, they range from like 16 to 20, 22.
More young, good kids.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's absolutely incredible to see. So nice shooting by a lot of those guys. If there was a rowdy crowd, and I know you didn't watch the footage, so I'll ask you this. If there's a rowdy crowd following around a guy by the name of Sullivan, which is not that common of a first name, I feel like, especially in 2023, what would, if you're running his fan club, what would those fan club members be called?
You could go with like Sullies. You could go get in the vans. Right? Come on.
Yeah.
A little
weird.
creepy, but sure, why
Very.
not? It's not a windowless van, so you're safe.
Anything else you could think of?
Sullivan, Sully. A group. I'm drawing a blank.
All right. Well, you think about that. That was a question I posed, and I haven't seen any. I've seen a few, but I haven't seen any that have knocked it out of the park yet. So
but if you were to go on tour, I'd do Sullivan's Travels. Like that would be his tour series on YouTube.
Okay. Also, I was told just before the round when Joseph Anderson, he said, if I'm making putts, then I'm Joey Buckets.
But if he's not making putts,
I don't know.
Is he Joey Airballs?
Is he just Joseph then? He's Joseph Anderson. But he goes, if I'm on, yeah, you can call me Joey Buckets. And somebody in the comments then said that is not allowed, even though I continued to call him Joey Buckets because his putting was truly phenomenal throughout the round. Anyone to have a putting round the way he did would be very content with themselves and very happy with the effort. So it felt like he lived up to his own hype and expectation. But then I was later warned or made aware of that apparently Vinny Buckets or something along those lines is what Philo references.
That's what he calls Vinny Buckets.
I don't know. Do you play off for the nickname, or do you just go to the higher rating automatically?
I think
he was around first.
Well, I think it goes to the higher rating. On top of that, you've got the at this point now famous basketball shot that Vinny put in. So you kind of have to go. But it's going to be Vinny Buckets. Normally I would like have them, race it out on bare feet, through a cow pasture or something. Mm-hmm. But I think I have to hand this one to Vinny.
Can he still be Joey Buckets? I mean, he's
sure,
not
he could still be Joey Buckets.
Vinny Buckets the second. I mean, he's Joey Buckets, so he can still roll with that.
It's kind of
we have two KJs, right?
We KJ USA, KJ. Yes, because I think so many people, and as I've said, go with the weak nickname of first letter of your name, first three letters of your last name, like T Mill or J Van or something like that. And that could be anybody. I mean, we have A-Rod from the Yankees, and then we had on our side Aaron Rodgers, which a lot of people called him. Again, to me, weak nickname structure. Come up with something better.
So like S-Tips isn't good for Sully?
I don't think so. No.
Well, S-Tip?
No. To me,
you want to be the S-Tips?
I don't want to
Stips?
I don't want to be the Stips. So we can have two buckets. I'll give us two buckets because it's Vinny Buckets and Joey Buckets.
All right.
And you know what? I bet you Joey Buckets has maybe had his nickname longer.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Because Philo just kind of started calling Vinny that this past year or so, I believe, within a year. I'm going to go with Joey might have had eminent domain on that.
Okay. Well, reach out to our friends at Sunstein Law if you have anything you need to protect, any copyrights. Okay. So that was some of the action. I'll lead, of course, with the thank you to Dwayne along with his wife, Susan, who have put not only me up and my good buddy Paul this weekend, but also Paul McBeth and Hannah McBeth were there. And in years past, Nate Sexton has stayed there. Simon Lizotte has stayed there. That's where I met Randon Latta for the very first time. He was staying there. Just Dwayne and Susan have been just so incredibly kind to us. And I say all this because this is the last year that they are living up in Inverness, which is about 25, 30 minutes north of the course. And they are moving to Massachusetts. And so this is
like
officially
reverse snowbirds.
Yeah, exactly. This is
aren't they doing it wrong?
Officially the last time that I was able to crash at their place. Actually, Nate Perkins ended up staying there out in his van on Sunday
just
night.
have Paul buy the place. He's just buying everything else in that area.
Exactly. I don't know if that conversation was had, but I know I thought it at least once. So, nonetheless, I just can't say it enough. Thank you so much, Dwayne. And to follow that up, another even bigger step is Dwayne was one of the most hardcore, sincere, hardest, most dedicated workers in getting that course ready year after year after year, bringing out his tools, having his tools ultimately stolen at one point to have them replaced, bringing in entire trailer full of tools just so that they could get the course ready year after year after year. So he's going to be sorely missed, of course, by the entire Florida disc golf community, but the tournament staff and everyone else.
An ice cube just like popped.
That was weird.
Yeah, just kind of poop.
So again, thank you, Dwayne, and I know the entire, like I said, Florida disc golf community appreciates all of the incredible efforts you and even the people, your successors that you've trained. I know Jason Rubica is going to be stepping in and doing a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of people that have tried to fill your shoes. So it's going to be a tall task, but thank you for hundreds and hundreds of hours that you've put in at that course throughout all the years. So we really appreciate it. All right. It looks like in just a few moments, we're going to have Mr. McBeth joining us. He's getting things all set up and ready to go so that he can jump on with us.
I see him. I see some audio bouncing in the background, so I know that, the microphone's working.
Or KJ USA is there, and he's starting one of his DJ shows early.
That's possible.
Could be possible. Do you think he's ready to go?
I don't know. I can't hear him.
All right. I think he's ready to go. And with that, your 6-time world champ, along with now 5 or 6-time Throw Down the Mountain champion, Paul McBeth.
Hey, guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound great.
We can. How you doing?
I am doing well.
All right. Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say I made it over to somewhere with Wi-Fi. So.
Yeah. Hannah stated that she took no responsibility for the technical setup that you guys previously had. And so we appreciate that you guys made the dedicated effort to go jump on and get something a little more sustainable.
She's a professional. I listen to the Party podcast every week, and they always sound great.
Yeah, this is her mic, her setup, her laptop.
Mm-hmm.
We are over at Jordan's, which is Nick Carl's girlfriend's house, so might look familiar in the background and stuff. I think he's done a podcast.
I've never been in Nick Carl's girlfriend's bedroom. Sorry, no Nick.
His podcast.
I was just thinking, I've been a lot of random places, but I don't think that's one of them. No. All right. No, we do appreciate. Yes, of course. You guys both, you, Nick, and the rest of the crew, all of you guys constantly in high demand. And in all honesty, I don't think this is something that's surprising to you, Johnny nor I were able to take the time to listen to Nick and Matt last week. So any given questions that may or may not be, repetitive or redundant, we apologize, kind of, sort of. But first of all, congratulations on the weekend. You and I didn't even really talk about, well, how do you feel like your play? What grade would you give your play on the weekend?
Probably like a B+. I think I was having, I'd get on a good stretch of holes, especially on the front 9. I would start out, getting 1 every time. 2, I think I got every time. 3, I put my drive pretty much where I wanted, 2 out of 3. But the front 9, I was playing really well. And then the back 9, I don't know what it was. I just kind of lost control of either my drive or my putt. So I don't feel like I put together an entire round. The first round I could have, minus those bogeys. But, I was playing solid. I was getting a lot of birdies. But I don't know. It never felt like I had a complete 18 holes put together. So I know that course is tough. But I just felt like I had more in me that I just couldn't get out. So
yeah, and you kind of made me look stupid. I
was
hard. I was talking about your putting, and I felt like it especially in the early goings, it looked really solid, really confident. And then it was maybe even shortly after I said that it just then seemed to be a bit off. I felt like you were largely high on some of your putts, either high or left. Anything that you were noticing or thinking about, or was it just they just weren't dropping?
I think they just all start to get to circle two. I think my shots just seem to get further and further away from the basket. So they're all circle two bids. I don't feel like I miss inside circle one that often. Even there, um, it's just when you get to that 35 to 40, 45 is when they start to, like you said, tend to be a little high, chaining out left. Um, and I feel like those are the ones that I just get too many of them in a round. I need to stay focused and keep my drives and my upshots closer so I don't have so many of those, because it does look like I'll miss a lot of putts throughout the round because there are, potentially 5 or 6 of those putts at that length.
And when you go to an event like this, now clearly you've for a decade have been largely the favorite when you go to a tournament, but when you go to an event like this and the next closest competitor is a full 20 or 25 ratings point behind you, is there ever any form of I mean, I know you don't want to take anything for granted, but is there any kind of comfort in that whatsoever?
No, not necessarily, because I know when I was in their shoes, I was showing up to the tournaments ready to win, and I know my first tournament ever as a pro in 2007. I was, I think, 970 or maybe 990 at the highest, and I ended up going out and beating a player that was 1027, I think, at the time. On a course that wasn't too much different. We were at Wrightwood out there in California, and I won my first professional tournament. Where I shouldn't have. So, um, it I have to still play well in order to win these tournaments. So, I mean, you're talking about kids that are 1015 to 1025. It's not someone that was 970 or 980 back then. So it's a big difference, I feel like.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that, because Johnny and I were just, as we were going through some of the results from this weekend, and I said so many of these guys I literally just met or got to watch play last weekend in Tallahassee. I think of Braden Sides, I think of Dylan, I think of the Sullivans and all of those types. Talk about some of the games and maybe what you're seeing in some of these younger players right now, or these newer players.
Yeah, they're all very talented. Backhands, forehands, putting. They have it all, and they enjoy disc golf to where they're going out and they're experimenting with all these shots and they're drilling them and getting better at them. The final round, it was like you said, Braden, Joey, and Sullivan, and I was the oldest by I think 11 years or something. Sully might
At
have been the
least.
second oldest at 21. So I mean, they're 19 to 21, I believe. So that was the lead card at A tier. Um, it's not often you see that or hear that. So that yeah, I mean, I played with a bunch of talented players, and like I said, they're all getting good and they're pushing each other, because I mean, if I wasn't there, it would have been those three battling, for that win. So I mean, they were still battling there, but I'm saying it would have been those three in a tight battle. And yeah, I mean, like you said, they were at Tallahassee last week. They were here, and who knows where they'll be playing next week. And I think we'll see a handful of them at Champions Cup as well.
Yeah, and I
So
think also I was kind of looking ahead. I think Huck Central is where we might see a few of them. I feel like a couple of them are registered, and now I'm excited that I already know them, because I'm kind of anticipating a few of those guys to be on some kind of lead or feature card, for that A tier that's coming up in roughly a month. So,
yeah, I think they're
so
from
talented.
Yeah, I think one's from Alabama, one's from Georgia, and one's from South Carolina. So I mean, it's not like those were their home courses or anything. So they're traveling and showing up and playing well.
Yeah, and the only thing that I forgot to ask you during the interview immediately after you had won is, do you I mean, he went and won in a different state and gave you the opportunity to win here in Florida this weekend. Do you need to thank him for not being there or anything?
Hey, Hannah, you guys on the Wi-Fi?
You're good.
Sorry, I lost it.
Oh,
we're good now.
Okay. I was just asking if, Because Orem won again, City of Mobile championships. He always wins in Alabama.
28 straight years on the podium.
Yeah,
is what I think. 28
straight events, maybe not years.
I thought it was years, but
no, he's only 35.
He's been playing since he was 7.
Okay, maybe. Either way, do you need to thank Orem for not showing up? I mean, he gave you a chance to win this.
Was he on the registration though?
He was at one point.
Hey, to be fair though, Matt Orem is on a lot of registrations because the weekend of Tallahassee, he was also on the registration for Texas State.
Yes.
So he might be registered an event in California, Idaho, because he's not sure where he's going to be.
That's true.
Yes. I mean, I should have given him a shout out. I didn't even think about it. I actually didn't even look at the registration beforehand. I should have.
He was. I know at one point he was absolutely registered. Yes.
He was supposed to go to South Florida Open over the winter, and he didn't go. So that's one.
Yeah, he had to go to Disney World or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
At any rate, you've had success, of course, here. The only time you lost actually was a late fall event. It was called Monster on the Mountain. Same idea, except for it was held in October. Heimberg bested you, I think, just by a single stroke, maybe 2. How much of this course is going to look different? Because now everybody really has paid attention to what's there and what has been played. How is it going to look different when somebody comes out there a year from now?
Well, I'll start from the beginning. Parking lot. We'll have an actual parking lot. Whether my guess is it'll be gravel.
Okay.
So there won't be these little green little rolling hills and stuff that you'll have to park on and hope it doesn't flood. So that'll be our first thing we want to do. There'll be a pro shop. My goal, all right, these are all my goals to have done by next year. A pro shop. Let's see. And then as far as those are the 2 things I really want to do. And who knows? I would really love to get some pickleball courts somewhere on there, just because that's actually where I just came from. So there's a lot of touring players playing some pickleball. So that'd be a fun little activity. Maybe the pro tour will get some videoed matches of us all playing each other. But let's see. As far as the course though, just some like I'd call them like tour pads. So like 1, 2, the ones just off the top of my head. 1, 2 would go a little bit longer. 4 would go longer. 5, that's the last time we've played that hole in competition. So goodbye to 5. So there'll be a new hole for 5. 6 will get a little longer. 7, the basket will get a little longer. I really like 8. 9, I really like. 10 will get a little longer. 11 would actually get shorter. I don't like that as a par 4, even though I parked it on that video. It looks really cool. I mean, if I throw it and hit one of those trees, I still get a long look at it. Pretty easy birdie.
So you want to shorten it and then make it a par 3 probably, right?
Par 3.
Yeah,
yep.
Okay.
Yep. Clear out a little bit of a hyzer line on 12 and maybe move the basket a little bit more further left. 13, I really want to make a tour pad. I think I showed you, Terry. Really cool spot. What number are we on? 14. 14's a great hole. I liked where it was this year.
Okay.
Eagle would be earned.
Yep.
15, I'd move the basket a little bit. 16 and 17 I'd combined, and 18 is too iconic to change anything.
Sure.
And then so with all those comes new tee pads. So permanent pads. And I think some of the holes will have 3 pads, some of them will have 2 pads. And I would love to have pin locations, multiple pin locations on every hole.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. One of the it was a solid question that I got asked earlier today. I think somebody maybe commented on my YouTube channel was, is there any concern about the barbed wire fence that has always been there? It's been it's essentially a cow pasture or a cow grazing area for most of the year typically. Any changes on the fence? Are you worried or concerned about it, or replacing it, or taking it out, or anything like that?
Well, some of them, like if you're looking at 15, they have cows there and bulls, so like that's gonna have to stay there, with that one. But like I could see like hole 3, we could change hole 3 where that is,
Sure.
where the hole is, and then other than that, there's not. it could change, but the barbed wire doesn't really come into play on many holes besides really 15
Yeah,
and
maybe a
3.
little bit on the tee of 10 and also on the tee of 3, and or the green of 2 possibly, but.
And I'm not a big fan of where the tee of 10 is anyways, so that one's
Okay.
going to move a little bit. But yeah, there's not a whole lot of spots where the barbed wire should come into play.
Okay. And then the other question that I thought, well, is, I don't know, promoting you being on the show tonight, I was thinking, have you guys talked about a name, whether it's for the entire property, whether it's for the course? Is there anything that you guys could see changing or branding or altering about the name there?
Yeah, we are definitely going to rebrand it.
Okay.
Give it a true name, because right now, people know it as Grand Canyon, the Canyon, throw it on the mountain course.
Mm-hmm.
It's got all sorts of names, but it's never like officially had a name. When they
Yep.
first started it with Greg Hosfeld, I think he called it the Grand Canyon.
Yep.
GRAN Canyon.
Yep.
But then as Barnett took over, it kind of shifted. So with Dylan and I, we definitely want to give it a name. And we do have a name already picked out, but we want to release that when we're ready to no exclusive. But we want to release that when we're ready to actually start opening up the gates and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and just to again throw it out in case somebody missed it, you're currently you're working with Mike Barnett, and we're going to talk to him in a little while, so we'll go over that
Sure.
more. But you're working with him kind of in a short-term situation where he can essentially use the place for a few more weeks. But then your goal for playable, open to the public, pay to play or membership or however it's determined, what's kind of like a deadline that you're really shooting for the rest of the world to come play it and be on the property?
So I would love to do it by the winter. I think it could be done by the fall, but it's hard to determine when fall and winter is in Florida.
Sure.
They kind of blend together. So I'd love to have it done by the fall, because I'm gonna go like with Cactus Rock and Dylan's other course in Alabama. Like, they have a lot of work to do. Like, they're doing it from scratch. This is already a disc golf course. So I don't see us having to do a whole lot of work besides the parking lot and putting pads in. And we are going to cut in, maybe a couple more. Like hole 4, we're going to have to cut in the new tee box where we want to put it. 5, we have to cut in a brand new hole. Oh, and then actually, since we're combining 16 and 17, we're adding a hole between 8 and 9. So that one we're going to have to cut in too. So really only three holes and maybe like 4 or 5 tee boxes we have to actually cut in. So I don't see a whole lot of work on that side. Besides doing the tee pads and putting some sleeves in the ground, which is obviously work, but you can knock some of those out in a week or so. So I think it could be done by then, but we want to make sure it's completely ready by the time we actually open it.
And when you say tee pads, I always make
Yes.
I make my own assumptions. But when you're talking about tee pads, what are you guys leaning toward as to what those will be, materials and such?
Typically, I love turf, but I'm have to ask around in Florida if turf really works out. With it being that hot and that that kind of wear and tear. I don't know how turf handles that. So I need to ask that around.
Does the Jacksonville course have turf?
I was just thinking, like over at New World.
Yeah, New World. New World.
Maybe.
It might.
I think
I
so.
feel like they were.
I'm not sure.
That vaguely
I don't recall.
springs to my mind, but
Yeah.
And then
It's a little bit more north too.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
A little cooler up there.
Uh-huh.
But I'm gonna ask around and find out, and then see also with the property and whatnot what would probably be better to go with. But yeah, it's gonna be one of those two: turf or concrete.
And it's funny because I was thinking this during the final round of commentary with Nate Perkins, and Ray just asked on the board, do you, of course you're going to, make a few holes look a little bit different, but when it comes to things like sawgrass on current hole 6, or really, I guess I'd say almost any hole, I think of the green of hole 14, which is a hole you just said you love, the par 5. Yep. Do you see yourself as trying to essentially leave it as it was this weekend, or do you think that there may be still additional trimming and or taming, maybe that's a word. Would you consider taming any more of the sawgrass that's in play right now on any given section of the course?
I mean, I think the sawgrass is like great bunkers for
Mm-hmm.
some of these greens because you can still go over them. You can go through some of them if you really want to. They are a pain, because they will cut you if you
Yeah.
really jump into them. But I think they're great bunkers. And yeah, you can lose disc in them, and that kind of stinks at times if you just hyzer one in them. But I really like playing with the sawgrass and having it as a that natural kind of bunker. But what's really cool is you can cut them down almost to like the little stubs, and they just
Mm-hmm.
it might take a couple of years, but they'll grow back. And it kind of reminds me of like Maple Hill, with their Christmas trees. They kind of plant them
Sure.
and they'll come back. They'll be up in a year, but it's sawgrass down here. You cut those things down, they grow right back up. So um, I think it's cool because you can kind of move some of these fairways with it, make them move different directions and shape it. And I think, like you said, six. They cut that left side down, which I would like to let that left side grow back up, and then cut the right side down, so it kind of makes more of that left to right shape. Makes that second shot a little bit harder.
Okay.
Yeah, and you have to understand. You have to figure with more people playing, some of that stuff might get knocked down
Naturally.
So you maybe don't want to pull it back right away. Let it try.
Johnny, I
to
don't
get...
know if you've been in sawgrass, but
well,
you can't really knock it down.
Again, if this course is as popular as everybody says it is,
yeah.
it's going to get beat up. I mean, it's whether
Sure.
whether it's a little bit here or there. I'm just saying, not maybe don't cut it down right away. Let it see how it's going to act for a year, and then work, like you said, work from there. If you realize, like, no, it's not getting beat up enough, we do need to trim it back a little bit.
No, I agree.
I would say if you know that you're always looking to me for business ideas, so when the pro shop opens, you absolutely need to sell one-legged sets of protective guards and pants like Charlie Goodpasture.
Charlie Goodpasture.
Yeah, so that if you go in the sawgrass, you simply put on just one leg of these windbreakers or whatever. I don't know if he officially deems those like these are my sawgrass pants, but you have to have sawgrass pants. That should be a staple in that pro shop, and then all proceeds go to Charlie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a good move. It was a good move.
The one-legged. So if you didn't see it, Johnny, and I've seen him do this before. He did it on 8. Well, it used to be hole 6 now. Many years ago, he went into some sawgrass. He has a pair of windbreakers, essentially in his bag. And when he went in there on
it's a
hole
man
14,
after my own heart.
Yeah, he put the windbreaker on just one leg when he then stepped into the sawgrass. And
because if it was a sleeve and it wasn't actual pants, it would have worked a lot better. Because he had to use one hand to hold it up, kind of. So if you just do a leg sleeve, with the elastic on both sides, that's all you need.
All right. Yep. There's money to be made here. There is money.
Just 2 elastic sides and you're set. It's reversible.
I like
put
it.
your branding on it. You can put a little disc golf guy on there.
Okay. All right.
Sold.
Well, yeah. You'll be my first. You might be my only customer, my only client. But when these are sold in the pro shop, as well. And now, Dylan Cease, of course, he opened. We talked about that a little bit. Opened for the White Sox. It turned out to be a no decision for him back on Thursday night. But what were some of the conversations you guys had throughout the weekend as he was watching the entire world talk about the property he's half owner of?
Yeah. So he starts tomorrow, and I have some ideas to run by him. But I told him we'll wait until after he pitches.
Okay.
And let him do his thing. But he was talking to me. He was waiting for your coverage, as you know. That's why he came out with it so fast.
Yep, just to appease Dylan. Yep.
Yeah. So he loved it, and he's like, I'm so hyped to see this place because he's only seen it on coverage, and as people know, coverage doesn't really do these courses justice. Not until you stand in face to face with this cliff that you got to throw 80 feet straight up a hill. You don't.
So
know
he
how
never
high
had been on
80
the property?
like.
No, I was gonna say that's a lot of trust. I mean, I understand you guys are you guys are friends and business partners and other aspects, but for to have you just call him and be like, "Hey, pal, I got a really great course. You've probably heard of it. I mean, you maybe even have seen a few holes. You maybe not remember. Just trust me. Don't sweat it. You're probably the best pitcher in the league or top 5 right now. But so just trust me, brother."
Wow.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't even think he saw or recall seeing video until we already were putting an offer in. But
Okay, so
that's
I'll follow that up and say, how public is the number or numbers that have been discussed? You've
Yeah,
openly
we
discussed
we
those?
said it we said it on the Nick and Matt, but we paid
Mm,
1.2 million for it. And yeah, that's a little bit more than we wanted to spend and what we initially offered. But I mean, realistically, when Dylan bought his other property, the Cactus Rock, he's paying probably double in building the course than what
mm,
he paid for the property. To where this one's already a disc golf course.
sure.
We're not really having to do that kind of work. We're not having to build the infrastructure, cut all the trees down, do all this, do all that. To where that's a lot of the money. The most we're probably going to spend is on the parking lot.
Sure.
Um, and depending on how intensive we get with the pro shop, that's going to be a good expense too. But we don't have to cut much on the course, luckily, in the designing part. There's going to be small changes to the design, but I think through the 11 years Barnett's run this tournament, he's kind of found the best flow for the property.
and
And I agree.
for just real quick, talking about Cactus Rock, that course is, as you said, kind of it is from scratch. Is it going to be pro tour caliber? Are we talking? I've heard mixed things. Is there going to be enough room for spectators? Like, how is that going to go? Because the few pictures I've seen, it looked a little. It didn't look spectator friendly at that point.
Yeah, it was definitely, any pictures you've probably seen have not been spectator friendly
Yeah.
at the time. There's a lot of work to be done, but he's got an incredible crew out there with the Williams brothers. And it's these three brothers who moved from Maine, and they started one of them moved down, the oldest one moved down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and started a landscaping business, and then his two brothers followed suit, and it's the three of them and some other employees, and they just they partnered up with Dylan, and now they love disc golf, and they're building a course out in Tuscaloosa. So
That's great.
they so we're I don't know if it's public, but it is, it may be, but we're doing a Finding the Lines episode there, series I should say, and Avery has gone out there with me, and he kind of shared some input on some holes and things like that, and he was telling me he's never seen a crew that's just never said no. They're like, no, we'll find a way to do this. And we just kept pushing it. So do I think it's pro tour caliber? 100%. And I think it's when you think of Alabama disc golf, this one really reminds so it's funny. I know I'm jumping story to story, but when I went there to the property and looked at it with Dylan, I told him this kind of reminds me of this course in Florida called the Throw Down the Mountain course. It gives me some kind of W.R. Jackson vibes.
Mm,
And so, a few weeks later, he's buying, the Throw Down the Mountain property. So it's got bigger, probably 2 to 3 times bigger cliffs and stuff than the Throw Down the Mountain property. But unfortunately, we don't get to throw down them the same as you do in Florida. But you get to play on some and see them. Some of them are more visible than they are playable.
When you finally retire, in a lot of years from now, how many courses of yours are going to be on the pro tour? Is it going to be just like the Paul McBeth tour courses? And it's like, oh, cool. This, I mean, I'm only kind of joking because in golf, we see a lot of Arnold Palmer courses. We've seen like all these great designers that do this who were former golfers. Are you going to have 3, 4, 5 different courses that were designed by you? Maybe pro tour and silver events, kind of? Is that your idea? Is that your plan? Or are you happy with just the two courses you have right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a plan. I mean, it's not. I shouldn't say it's a plan. I mean, even Worlds next year is going to be in Lynchburg, and I had a hand in those too. So if these two got on, then yeah, technically there could be 4. But I feel like a lot of it just has to do with the land. I feel like the land's design it is just who can see it and who can kind of pull it out of the property. Because the Tuscaloosa one, when Avery went there, and as the work progresses, having an eye like Avery go out there and be like, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? It kind of really opens it up. So, I can't take full credit on something like that, So it's a team effort for sure. But yeah, it'd be cool to have a lot of them, a lot of the courses. But I can tell you I'm not designing the course to be like, oh, this is how I like to play disc golf. I want to design the toughest course that land allows,
Sure.
and that's possible, and the most challenging because it. I hate saying it, but I feel like all these golf courses kind of take away a lot of shots that we used to throw in disc golf. But when you move to these private courses, you're seeing shots that you don't see out on tour. And for me, I feel like the power fairway is kind of gone. You know, the power fairway shot, the fairway drivers are kind of starting to go away. Which at first, when you go to the golf course, it's kind of the mid ranges. Now the fairways are starting to disappear. So I think with these private courses and these designs that these players are allowed to do, you kind of see those pop up a little bit more. So I don't know. That's just my opinion, but yeah, we'll see. I think these
No, I
private
mean, that,
courses are where it's at.
I think you're right because I've said for a few years now I feel like some of our players are losing some touch shots. Everything seems to be power hyzer or power forehand, and then from there then you use your approach disc or a putter to get under the basket if it's a par 4 or another driver if it's a par 5. We see a little bit of exception on that. I think Waco has a few still that are out there that I like, but I think you're right in that some of these shots that you and I, I'm kind of pointing at Terry, that Terry and I saw growing up, we don't see them nearly as much as we do now. So,
yep. I mean, you see it with putting too. These baskets catch nearly anything. They prefer firm putts compared to the touch of the Mach 3s and even the chain stars back in the day. You had to come in with some speed control, and now you can kind of just hit them as hard as you want, and they catch a majority of them.
And when they don't, people complain. Oh, how did that spit?
Yeah.
Like, dude threw it 50 miles an hour from 25 feet. How do you?
And it hit high left chain. It makes perfect sense, Paul. I mean, if we're just going to kind of if we bring it back and reword what you're saying is, you're getting older, and as you do, you want the courses to suit where you're skilled. Just kidding.
No, I mean, I there's plenty of understable discs for me to throw further. Okay. I think there's so many discs now that I can just. The older I get, the less stable I throw. I'm just throwing further.
Yeah. So let me.
We'll know when he starts going to 150 class.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So much of the response for that park job on hole number 11, so much of the response was, "What? I wish I could flip a force like that," or "I wish I had a flippy force." Can we? Does that drive my point home more that sometimes in the bag videos are just effing stupid because you throwing like that force is probably stable still for a ton of golfers, and you're calling it a flippy force and getting it to turn the way you did. Like, not all forces are the same for that reason, right?
It depends on what you say. So it's my most understable force. I'm not saying it's understable. It's my most understable force. So, it's not like if I was to go out there and just roll right over, I'm not calling it an understable disc at anything. It's just if you grabbed all my forces, that would be the most understable of the bunch.
Yes. And I guess that's just my point is so many people get really hung up on, well, yeah, McBeth has 5 forces in his bag, and just realizing your forces have a wide range of beatness. And I just think too many people get really hung up because you would never equate a force with turning one over. And then the way you threw that, A, you're one of the best throwers in the world, and B, it's your least stable force. That's kind of my whole point about why I hate in the bag so much.
Well, and you got to realize too, I mean, how fast do you think that disc is going down that hill?
At least 20 miles. Oh, 85, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not that I'm throwing it that fast, but it's screaming down a cliff, just gaining speed. So
sure,
it's definitely going down that hill faster than I threw it. So that's definitely going to make a lot of discs understable.
So one of the other questions, which is very fair, if you had to guess, and I know you looked at a ton of property, you and I looked at a couple of the things, but if you had to guess, how much of the 63 acres do you feel like the course currently consumes? Is there a ton of unused property out there or not?
So I've been calling it, there's a big black hole in the middle of that course. It's not used. So if you look at where the tee box of 4 is, there's nothing from 4's tee box to 6's tee box, and from 5's tee box to like 5's basket to 6's basket. There's a huge hole in the middle of that course that's not used. So that's where I'm putting the new hole 5 is in that big black hole, and then the new 9 will be in that similar hole.
Okay.
So I'll be putting 2 holes in this big area that's not used. And then I would say a lot of the property is used, but it's always hard to factor because the parking lot's so big,
Sure.
how much that acreage is. So I would say the course probably sits on 45 to 50. Um,
Okay.
and then the parking lot's a big chunk of it remaining. And then there is another ridge, which we could make an insane spectating area from the top of the ridge up above like 14, 13, 12, and even 11, but
Mm-hmm.
we'll see what we want to do with that. We might make camping, who knows what we can do, but
Sure.
it's not enough to build houses. There's no way you can build houses, but there's enough to do some things, I'm sure.
Yeah. And,
But
I
it's a big
want to
court.
clarify because I think I kind of I blurted out or adamantly said I think it was last week in talking about all of this in general. As I said, there's not electricity and there's not water on the property, and you and Dwayne have clarified there is a well that needs to be redone. So there is, water to the property, so to speak. And then there is an electric line that is right near there that obviously would then have to get tapped into. So my point is that we haven't had running water or electricity on site. Clearly it can be added, and it's not as much of a lift as I thought honestly it was going to be, because I didn't realize that both of those were, essentially dormant or available.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that will be a little easier than I originally had said, thanks to your clarification.
And I've learned a lot about the property too. There was a house
Yeah.
on the property. Like the VIP parking is actually the foundation from the house.
Yeah.
So we just park on a concrete slab, and that there is actually a tennis court, which is the putting green. So that was pretty cool to find out. And then and it used to be a mountain biking before it was disc golf, and that's how it got discovered for disc golf.
And I think Ellen Widboom, who lives literally her parents live just like a mile and a half down the road, who graciously let me go over to their house and edit during the day. Ellen was talking about that very tennis court. And I think she was I think she said she was, got lessons from the gentleman that, lived there. So this kind of really beautiful, meshing and melding that we've seen, of the property throughout the years. And now the fact that you're going to be taking things over there is just really cool because there's that history. You talked about 1.2 million. Is it public, the split that you guys have in your ownership? Does that matter?
Oh, we went 50-50.
Yeah, you guys are 50-50 on it. And then did you guys at all talk about what that process was like in terms of, somebody else being interested in it and how that came about for you guys?
Say that again?
Did you guys talk at all about how there was basically another interested party that was looking at the property as well, and for a very different reason, right?
Yeah, so the background story of how we ended up with it was Mike Barnett was running, obviously, the Throwdown the Mountain weekends. He has 4 weekends, 4 tournaments throughout the 6 weeks that he rents it. I think he gets a 45-day lease from Suzanne, who is the former owner, and he would set that up through the county of Brooksville or the town of Brooksville, and that would basically allow him to run the tournaments. And I guess it was like week 2 of him running the events. It was pretty early February. Suzanne reached out to him and said that this guy was going to buy the property, and he came in with a really good offer, and that she wasn't looking really to sell it, but the guy just came and wanted to buy it. And when someone comes and offers you a good amount of money and it's just land that you're not doing much with, you listen. So he was serious, and she was like, told Mike, and Mike was just kind of surprised by it, and was like, wait, let me if this was going to be the last Throwdown, I wanted to at least announce it and like get some time to plan it and let people know. So that was his biggest worry at the time. And then he just happened to reach out to me because I did a signing, I think in November or December at Sun King when they opened their new store, and was just like, hey, if they're ever gonna sell it, just let me know. Like, I'd love to just hear a number and just hear, because it would be so cool if this was actually a permanent course. And So when Suzanne dropped that news on him, he reached out, and I said, well, yeah, just let me know number, because we're in the process of selling our house in Virginia, so I might have had a little bit of money, and found out that she gave us about 48 hours to come up with a realistic offer. And she didn't tell us how much the other offer was, and then we gave an offer, and she said, well, so and so is offering this, and we're like, okay, well, we're pretty far off. So I needed to find someone who was into buying courses at the time, which Dylan had just bought Cactus Rock. And I said, hey man, I know you're into things, you're a twin, you like to you wanted to get a cat, you ended up with 2, your brother wanted a dog, he came back with 2. What about 2 disc golf courses, Dylan? What do you think about this?
That's a sales pitch if I've ever heard one.
So he said, he asked some questions, and we ended up throwing a number. She actually said, if you can offer this number, it's yours. And we said, dang, that's more than we want to spend. But we ended up hitting that number, and then that guy ended up offering $1 more, and then she was like, I don't know what to do. And so it was,
and you flashed
30
the
days
rings,
later,
like,
we owned it. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
okay.
yeah, we were like, I said, we're not going to get into a bidding war. So
Sure.
so 30 days later, we were the owners. So we actually owned it, I think, 2 weeks before we actually announced, or maybe 2.5 weeks, I think, before we announced. But we were trying to keep it a secret until the pro weekend, but people started finding out. So
yeah, well, I mean, you're not the best at keeping secrets, right?
well, so what's funny is when we became the owners, our names had to be on the waiver. Well, our names had to be somewhere. So we said, put them on the waiver. No one ever reads those. So
I do.
People
I
read
got my
the waiver.
bracelet. I got my bracelet.
Yeah. If people would have read the waiver, they would have known that we were the owners.
Okay.
About probably week 2, I think.
Let me teach you about shell companies, Paul. No.
Yeah. Now, clearly, this is iconic property. It's historic, and it's got so many great vibes. And I personally overheard dozens of people saying, "Hey, thank you for buying this. Thank you for making this happen." Dare I ask, is there a bigger end goal? I mean, are you guys concerned about the money it may or may not generate? Are you concerned about making money or breaking even or hosting, these top tier events? Like, when you think about the bigger picture, like, what's kind of the end goal to it?
I mean, of course, we don't want to lose money on it doing it. It's an investment for sure. And if I was going to invest in something, I want to invest in disc golf. It is nerve wracking. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it's, and like I said, if people watched the interview at the end of your video there from round 3, all these thank yous and all the congratulations, all that stuff, like it's so humbling, and I appreciate everyone, but I'm still looking at it like it's not done. Like, we haven't opened the course up yet. Like, I'll be happy and satisfied when we can actually, drop the name and open the doors so people can come and play and enjoy it, because so many people don't get to, because it is only open 4 days or 4 weeks out of the year. So yeah, that's when I'll be satisfied and happy with it and be like, okay, we got this rolling. And I'm looking forward to that, though. At the same time, it's nerve wracking, but I'm looking forward to it at the same time. Yeah. I mean, I hope it does well. I mean, I think it's really cool. It's a very unique course in Florida, and it's a very unique course in disc golf in general. There's not a property that I can compare to this that we play anywhere on tour.
Yeah, it is definitely unique for a lot of different reasons, especially because as everybody that's seen it for the last few years, it sticks out like such a sore thumb within Florida. And of course, it's not a real mountain. People need to get over that. It's just a play on the fact, that it does have some of that hilly terrain and whatnot. So that's the first obvious thing, but it is unique in how it's laid out, especially with that surrounding area. Johnny was just talking about shell companies, so I've got a great idea to lob up to you again.
Another one?
Another good one. you should reach out to the people at the Paul McBeth Foundation and see if they, I mean, it's an underserved area. See if they maybe would want to put a course in Brooksville here at this this place that doesn't have disc golf like 48 other weeks of the year. I don't know. I'm just saying the foundation might be able to help out there.
Well, we at least know that they have a very good history in putting courses in. I mean, they're very experienced.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm just
Yeah.
baskets. I know we're getting into a few of the trivial details before we jump over to Music City, and then we'll let you go. But baskets, other equipment, is that determined? Is that on your radar as a concern right now? Is Discraft paying
Mach threes?
There you
Definitely.
go. Okay, so Big Germ will be first to show up. I like it.
Yes, definitely
No,
Mach
listen,
threes.
I love it. Mach 3s, like you said, I'm a big fan of speed control with putts. So,
no, we'll I think we'll go with not two sets of baskets. We'll go with 2 baskets per hole, but obviously they'll be Chain Stars.
Okay.
Chain Star Pros. So, yeah, so we'll probably do the two different color baskets, and then 2 to 3 tee pads. I don't know if we'll do 3 on every one, but some of them I definitely know we'll have 3 pads. So we'll see. So multiple layouts that you can play.
Go with the airborne method, and sponsor out holes. Get custom bands on it. For $4 or $5 grand, I'm sure someone would buy a hole for 10 years. Good sponsorship.
Yeah.
All right, let's.
And we're definitely going with like the lifetime membership and yearly memberships and day rates and stuff like that. So trying to be unique with it, but let people feel like they have a piece of it as well, because it is. This course is definitely bigger than Dylan and I. It's been around. It's not like the Cactus Rock where that's being created. This is something that has so much history behind it. So.
All right, so let's transition quickly over to just give us a Music City Open preview from your perspective. You headed up there yesterday, right? Monday, yesterday. Did you get some golf in?
Today.
What'd you see?
Yeah, I got in today. There was some weather. Yeah, there was some weather and then accidents, and it took like 14 or 15 hours to get here. It was way longer than it should have been.
For what should have been 6,
8.5, 9 hours, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But course is way different. So I played it 2 years ago. It's completely different than 2 years ago. It's a lot more enjoyable. Hopefully the weather holds up. Like today was windy, but there was no rain or anything like that. It's fairly long. Lots of distance drivers. And my biggest complaint is that we're putting on the dynamic disc baskets. I don't know which ones, but they're all temporary, and they're the shiny chains one. So the stainless steel ones. Yeah, so the veterans, the stainless steel chains, and then they're all temporary baskets, so they like cut through and spit out a lot. So I don't know if it's because they're not leveled, because they're all temporary baskets or whatnot. But that's just one thing that's my biggest complaint on the course. Like, it's not that hard to put sleeves in the ground. It's not, you dig a hole and you put a sleeve in the ground.
And I guess I'll follow that up with, this is otherwise a temporary course, right? This isn't, if you were out in that area 6 months from now, the course wouldn't exist. Is that correct?
I don't know much of the history on that or how it is. But I know it's just, you could literally put a bucket in the ground and dig a hole and then dig it up if you want. But yeah, that's my biggest complaint about them, is because temporary baskets just tend to spit more. I mean, chain stars, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Anything that's on a temporary one tends to, if it's not leveled perfectly, it'll spit. But it's always hard to judge a course when it was that windy out as it was today. But it is, like I said, a lot better than 2 years ago.
Okay, yeah, and to be fair, I feel like I saw a tweet earlier today from Ella Hansen, or yesterday, and she kind of echoed exactly what you said. She really enjoys it. She says it's clear there's been a ton of work, and this feels like almost an entirely different course, and that she was really looking forward to it. So it, I feel like it's safe to say it wasn't a favorite of players a couple of years ago, and so now I think it's going to be great to see the changes and everything else that you guys talk about. Do you feel like there's anything out of the ordinary? You obviously had I was going to say the weekend off. You really didn't, of course. But back on the Pro Tour, Elite Series, all that stuff. Anything the disc golf world should be looking out for this weekend? Maybe that's the best way to word that question.
Looking out for?
Yeah, thinking about, not, what should we know?
I don't know any surprises this week. I don't know any inside stuff or anything that's going on. No, I don't have much from this week. I will say one thing that I have noticed is we haven't had any concerts or anything this year, which is interesting. I feel like this would have been,
I think KJ's playing this weekend, but not
they are
Corey
having some
Wong.
music.
What's that?
They are having some music.
I heard that. I feel like I saw KJ post and say, "Hey, I think I'm going to be performing or doing something this weekend," or maybe he was just throwing it out there,
Nashville.
hoping that it sticks. But you're right.
This is the place where you should have some kind of live music going on. I mean, we're in Nashville. I'm sure there's a bunch of people that would have loved to come for free to perform.
Yeah,
put them on
that
a
is
stage.
A good question. Yeah, I can't say I know anything about that. I'm going to be hosting my first ever Tournament Central show this weekend, so I'm sure I'll be seeing some clips and some maybe even talking to you at some point. I'm not sure. We'll see.
I haven't seen any Tournament Central coverage yet. I feel like it just disappears. You have to see it live or it's gone.
Yes,
it'll be there for you this weekend. Me and Perks are gonna have it on lockdown, I think.
Okay,
we'll see. Anything that you or Hannah or any of your fans need to report back that me or Perks got absolutely wrong this weekend?
Think you watched the footage?
That's why I'm saying any Hannah or his fans. Did anyone be like, you believe what Miller said? That idiot said blah 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 on this hole. Was there any major corrections that you and I should hash out right now?
I think I was 7 feet combined on hole 1, not 8 feet for the 3 rounds. I think you were off there.
You're fired, Miller.
Oh my! Johnny didn't see him yet. I'll show him after the show. You on hole number 1 was ridiculous. Yes.
Yeah, I had one. I wish if we could play hole 1 18 times, it would have been. We're gonna walk in the park, as the PDGA commercial said.
You had that one dialed. That's for sure.
I mean, I think you guys crushed it with the coverage. I think it was very highly anticipated. And I think 1, because Dylan and I bought the property, but 2, it just happened to be a great off week. And there wasn't much coverage going on. People weren't consuming disc golf. So I think it was just, perfect time for everything. So if you haven't watched the coverage, go and watch it. It was very entertaining. And you can get a little preview of what the course looks like now. And then next time you see it, it'll probably have some tee pads. But I guess I do got to say with Barnett is keep up with Sun King, because he is going to open up the disc golf course, I think starting May around Cinco de Mayo, and he'll open it up for about a month and a half or something like that. So it'll probably be similar layout as to what it is now, and this will be the last time you see it without permanent pads and such. So you might be able to get a sneak peek onto some of what these tour pads are going to be too, because we'll probably be doing the work at the same time. So go out there and support Sun King.
One prediction for tomorrow: over under 6.5 strikeouts for Dylan.
Who are they playing? San Francisco?
I have no idea.
Oh, I hope over for sure.
All right.
They're playing San Francisco in Chicago. Yeah, it should be over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did he have 9 or 10 opening day?
10.
10. Okay.
He had 10.
Which tied a record of sorts, right?
It might have tied a White Sox record or
like a White Sox opening day record or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
I saw.
Yeah. And if that was later in the season, he probably would have gone at least another inning and a half.
Mm-hmm.
But opening day, he's got a long season ahead of him, so I don't see him going more than 6 or 7 unless he's got a no going. But still might be. They might still pull him. So who knows?
Final question. Then I took this one to Reddit today, which I don't often do, but I took this one to Reddit. So it'd be interesting getting your perspective. I worry that some of the coverage. You were playing with gentlemen that aren't known, that aren't well known nationally or internationally. All great guys. We already kind of actually gushed about how good they are. So this is no slight to them whatsoever. But I did pose the question to Reddit today, and I said, hey, I got the coverage out relatively quick, next day, every day, and it didn't get as many views. And this isn't me complaining about it. This is me trying to truly assess the situation. And I said, am I making a mistake by basically not just putting your face on every thumbnail because I kind of spread them all out, and I lately have been putting everybody on and splitting them up by twos. Am I crazy in thinking that? Is that something that anyone else should be offended by? What are your thoughts on that?
I think what I could see is just the tournament name. They didn't recognize it with the Pro Tour or haven't. So I could see, since it didn't have a picture of me, sure they might not have clicked on it, versus maybe the ones that did. But yeah, like you said, no slight to the other players because they aren't known there. But if you watch these videos, you'll see that they will be known soon enough. Well, I mean, I could see it being a little bit different, or like it could get fewer views because of that, because the Throwdown the Mountain is not a Pro Tour event. And then if you see Braden and Joey, you might not click on it as quickly as if I was on it, or if my name was on it, or if it said DGPT Throwdown the Mountain, whatever. Sure. I mean, I could definitely see that happening. But
yeah, I think I did that with you at Huck Central a couple of years ago when we filmed you, and you were the biggest name at that event. It was actually a very similar field in that sense. There was a couple of other really solid players, but I feel like that was my play. And I guess the question to the other guys would always be, hey, would you rather us roll the dice and possibly get, say, 70,000 views, with just Paul's picture on it, but you're in the video and there's 70,000 views, or you're on the thumbnail and maybe we're rolling the dice and it only gets 30,000 views.
That's why you do 3 and 3. You have Paul, the two guys, and then Paul, and then the other guy. Just have him every like.
Yeah.
And to be fair, as some people suggested, all 4 don't really fit. It really looks good when there is just 1. 2 is fine. 4 gets really congested. So anyway, these are just random thoughts to try and make it better.
Is there a difference between the one that I'm in versus the one that I'm not in, like front 9 versus back 9? Or is it
and that's always tough because back 9s almost always don't perform as well as fronts. Yeah. People get lost or sidetracked or lose interest, or a lot of people just said, "Oh, I just assumed Paul was going to win."
Yeah,
that was a big conversation, but
yeah.
So I don't know, but if I'm in that situation again, I think I'm gonna roll the dice on the idea of featuring our most prominent players. It just gets into a really dicey zone of like, well, who makes it, who doesn't, and then everybody gets mad and they say, well, you had him on the back 9, so I know who won. Well, there's a 1 in 4 chance you're going to be on one of the 2 thumbnail, right? Like,
don't fall into stupidity, Terry.
I know, but people
say
that
the front 9. I only watch the back 9 because the thumbnail.
That's right.
Anyway, these are the dumb things I have to worry about.
Or just always put him on the back 9, and then
No, I knew you had him on the back 9.
No, I'm just saying then because you say the back 9 gets less views. At least then maybe it pushes up the back 9 to even it. I don't know, Terry. Either way,
put a picture of you and then our names on the side.
Some people did say that. Some people on Reddit. I don't think they were trolling or like, you really need to brand yourself and be out there more. I'm like, no, I don't. Nobody needs my picture on the thumbnail at all. I unequivocally shoot that idea down. I do not. If it doesn't involve me in front of a camera, then I don't have to have my face on it. So
I wonder if that's why Jomas went away from pictures and just do the weird little graphics now.
I mean, there's you literally could take a college class or a master's class
on YouTube thumbnails.
Like there's an unbelievable science to it all, and YouTube treats them differently, and there's been different things.
Can we get a shot of Paul just doing this? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Because that's every YouTube video that I see.
Yep.
Paul McBeth shoots the mountain.
You'll never believe.
What happened to Paul McBeth? Huh? I don't know. Well, we'll keep figuring out. I'm sure Hannah's got this all figured out. She's not going to share all her secrets with me. She's super last quick thing officially is Paul McBeth Foundation. Give us an update.
Update. I was just on a call yesterday. We got 2 new people, which is cool. That means the foundation's growing and doing well. So we got more people there. And for me, next trip is to Spain. So that'll be when I head to Europe. That'll be my first stop. I'll be stopping in Madrid. And they already got the course in and everything. So they might already have a tournament, but it'll be the first time that I get to see it and be there. So it'll be cool to stop by there. But projects left and right. I know there's some coming up to be announced soon. But we were just going over that actually while I was in Florida, going over all that. So that'll probably be announced. But yeah, Paul McBeth Foundation. I know there's an auction going right now, or coming soon. So be on the lookout for that. On you can go paulmcbethfoundation.org, or Instagram's the easiest one, in my opinion, to follow. But yeah, it looks like at least 4 or 5 projects this year. So
Heck yeah.
but I guess there was supposed to be a trip down to Nicaragua with the team, but I forget what happened. Oh, the baskets still haven't showed up. Or they got stuck or something like that. So they didn't send the team. So Kevin Jones is supposed to be going on that trip when it does happen.
Nice.
So that one's just been a little struggle. But yeah, just follow. I know that's going to be an announcement here coming soon about some projects here in the U.S. and then outside as well.
Great.
Heck yeah. Awesome. Well, I know the entire disc golf world appreciates and thanks you and your crew who are doing all the work on the back end to make all of those happen. It's almost crazy to think even myself, like, just no longer do I even know where they're all happening, because you've expanded and done so many of them, that it's pretty awesome to see that your worldwide reach of your foundation continues to grow and thrive the way it is. It's absolutely awesome to see. So,
have you guys had a chance to see the Montenegro video?
I have not yet. That was released on Jomez a few days ago. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely check that out.
Okay.
It's such a good like it's like a movie, to be honest.
Okay.
By far my favorite disc golf video that I've watched. I mean, I'm in it a little bit, but I know the story.
What are you on the thumbnail?
How it came about.
I didn't click on it. You weren't on the thumbnail.
Yep, I am the thumbnail.
Yeah. See. Yeah.
But yeah, it's so well produced, and
Awesome.
it just, incredible. So we look forward to doing that with more of these projects and just kind of sharing the story of how disc golf. That's first disc golf course in Montenegro. So
yeah,
to be able to share that story of who knows where disc golf goes in Montenegro, but we have that story of how it first got there. It's just really cool.
Yeah, clearly creating and building on that legacy of yours time and time again. I love it. All right, well, we could talk for hours, even though we just hung out for half the weekend. But thank you for providing more additional insight for everything that's happening down there in Brooksville, as well as what you're thinking about this upcoming weekend. We wish you the best of luck, and like I said, maybe I'll be chatting with you at some point through Tournament Central this weekend. But best of luck to you.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Paul.
See ya. Have a good night.
Yep.
Just put him on every thumbnail.
Put him
on this one.
I was just going to say,
a picture of him.
I am, as much as people either do it, I'll say keyword spam or name drop or whatever, exclusively for the clickbaity version of it. Like, I work really hard to not do that. I'm clearly sacrificing some things by trying to stick to not doing that. And but the joke was made today. Like, yeah, even put him on thumbnails of tournaments he's not even at, and put him on absolutely everything. And others were arguing, well, was it just Paul that you could, would we see the same of Ricky or Simon or Eagle?
There's a few key people that I think,
certainly.
Now, granted, for whatever reason, we don't see those other people in some of these other videos that you tend to do. It seems to be Paul mostly, because you're doing Throwdown the Mountain, you're doing these Florida events. You're not, for whatever reason, Simon usually isn't the highest rated player at an event where there's a gap like we saw with Paul here. I think, and again, I really, really like your thumbnails. The 2 and 2, I think when you go to the YouTube page, they line up real nice. They're colored. Everything looks great. I think maybe for some of these you have to make an exception with Paul and just put all 4 of them on.
Paul all the time?
4 Pauls.
No, all 4. Yeah,
4 Pauls. Hey, different poses.
No, you're right in that it really gets congested.
It does.
I did
understand.
do that for a long time. I
know
went
you
with
did.
4 people, and I just felt like it got really congested, and they're so small that then maybe you're not even able to figure out who's who, and so I didn't really like that. But
I'll Photoshop a mustache on the Paul and be like,
Nonetheless, I do appreciate everyone's insight.
Better yet, dig up like an old Paul,
the shaggy hair,
Paul with the shaggy hair, the full hawk Paul.
Yep. Along with the tips.
The tips Paul, and then just 4 different Pauls.
I will fake out that algorithm one way or another.
You'll get them, Terry. You'll get them.
Anyway, someone saying the thumbnails are are boring. I'm not sure which ones you're talking about, but yeah, I mean, like I said, there is obviously a science to thumbnails, and I was trying to think of somewhat of an analogy today. I was just thinking like, yeah, thumbnails are somewhat like the cover of a book, right? Like if they're not appealing to you, and I know you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but if it's not appealing, you're not clicking on it. And there's all sorts of really interesting stuff about them, and even YouTube, smart YouTube people have talked about the evolution of the science and the algorithms and the things that go behind it. And I'm not just out for clicks. I want to put out good content that people enjoy, but you want people to find it. You want
people to actually enjoy it.
Yeah. And like a weekend like this, where it was a little bit quiet on the professional scene. Yeah, it was a good weekend. Now, I also know, I'm not a total idiot. I know.
Put Dylan Cease on him.
Come Monday. Come Monday, you have, well, on any given weekend, you have, whether it's NFL, a Super Bowl Sunday, or you have a Monday, NCAA game or whatever. I understand there's certain things like that can also impact your overall viewership, but clearly a good thumbnail is never going to hurt you. No. So that's just a thought that I had today when looking at them. Because I think back to the Memorial. Paul wasn't at this year's Memorial. I think about the hype and the excitement, and I got it out a day later than even planned, and people were harping on me, and this time I got it out exactly when you would have expected it, and just the viewership wasn't quite there. And a lot of people admitted and said, well, I saw Paul was playing. I didn't recognize the other names. I assume he just ran away with it. And it's like, well, actually, it was a really good battle. If you watch, it was a great battle, and that wasn't the case. But I can understand you're drawn to names and other things that excite you. So speaking of exciting things, when I get that little message, that little alert from the PDGA website to know about new things going on, we saw something today, didn't we? Tell us about it. Do you know? PDGA board of director candidates and candidacies, and
yes,
if that doesn't get you hyped,
PDGA hype. Get on the hype train. There's an article out on the PDGA page talking about how they are updating the global board candidates. They're seeking global board candidates, and they're changing up the way we're doing board of directors a little bit. It used to just be kind of a free-for-all. If you wanted to run for board of directors, you would just fill out like a one-page application, and more or less run. You could submit whatever you want to put on there, blah, blah, blah. The PDGA is actually putting a board together that is going to filter out candidates, and the application process is a little bit more
Is vet a better word than filter out?
What?
I guess. Okay, go
vet,
ahead. It's
filter
the same
out.
word.
Yeah,
It's the same thing, I guess.
They'll vet them, but there are, as they say, some desired knowledge and skills. There's a cover letter you need to write now. There's basically, they are going to, and there's going to be a third set of group of people that are going to help filter this out. It's not going to be, I believe, the board of directors in the future. It might be for this year, I believe. I thought I read, but not in the future, not starting next year. I just think it's too quick for what's coming up that they haven't been able to put a board together. So that we're going to hopefully narrow down the number of people, because we've seen anywhere from, I think last year we didn't have that many. I think last year was like 6 or 8.
12? Oh, last year. I'm thinking the year before.
The year before that was like 18, yes.
18. And to be fair, one thing I'm gonna jump in on that is when there's 18, obviously that's overwhelming, because nobody really wants to listen to 18 different people, no matter who it is. Or you're going to want to listen to like, oh, I think I kind of recognize this name or this person, so I'll listen to those 2 or 3 or 4. You're probably ignoring a large majority of them at that point. And then just, again, 18 is an overwhelming number. And so the idea that they're going to somewhat vet, filter, select whatever, and trim down to narrow down our potential candidates, I'm sure there's going to be detractors that say this is some form of gatekeeping, or this isn't democratic, or whatever. Whatever phrase you want, that's fine. I like the idea that there's going to be a little bit more of a threshold. I don't want to say just of seriousness, and
there's a higher floor.
Yeah, and I don't think that's wrong when we're talking about an organization that now has 250,000 members to it, and it's so much more impactful and meaningful. More every year, it's getting bigger and bigger. The responsibilities of the board and what is really falling on their shoulders and on their plate. I don't mind that. This likely is going to give us a better pool of candidates through and through.
I think just changing even the application process will help with that. Having to write a cover letter, and it's not much. I mean, you could easily, spoiler, you could go to ChatGPT and say, write a cover letter for this board and one or two things, and it's going to write you out a really good cover letter that you'll probably just have to go and tweak a little bit.
I need to get out there. I've got some resume stuff to do.
I bet you do. But there are other criteria that are happening now. So it's going to be good. It's going to be good for everybody in the long run, and maybe it'll help with voter numbers. I don't have a lot of faith in that.
I think it will, and for the reason I just said, I feel like I
don't know.
Only because let's put it this way, it's not going to hurt, right? I don't think the numbers will go down. But if you really think about it, if you're now, instead of looking at 18 people, which feels overwhelming or disinterested,
in that
now
case,
you know you maybe only have, I don't know what the number is. Let's call it 6. Let's just say the number is 6. You have 6 people. They're all probably at least obviously they're all at least somewhat qualified at that point. They're kind of pre-qualified, like a home loan. They're pre-qualified. You are probably now genuinely more interested when you're like, oh, wow, there's 6 people, and I really kind of feel strongly about these 2 or these 3. I think, now granted our numbers are getting bigger, but I think our percentage of voter turnout will increase.
I hope so. It's funny because we're talking about voter turnout, and I pulled up our local Journal Sentinel. This morning I voted, and there's a couple big races that are happening, and that was great, and I went through those, like, yes, this person. And then there were some local ones that I didn't even think about. And I was just looking at that like, do I just leave it blank? Because I didn't look at
informed decision.
I didn't have an informed decision about like a local tiny city board person, and I'm just like, oh. And then there were a few of them that had 2 candidates, and it said, please vote for 2. And I'm like, oh, that one's easy. I get both of them. Yeah. So there were 2 or 3 that I just left blank because I just didn't know, and I didn't want to quote unquote vote for the wrong person. But yeah, interesting. So hopefully, if we're lucky, this will help the voting turnout. It'll help the interest. But like you said, it really can't hurt.
What can hurt is Mike Barnett not sending me his correct email address. So the link I was trying to send him just came back to me just to realize that he spelled his own email incorrectly. I'm not calling you out, Mike, but I'm calling you out here.
Calling him out, Terry.
So hopefully now he should have the link, which then means soon enough we'll be able to catch up with him. I was like, why did this not go through? And spell your company correctly, Mike, and we'll be able to get an email to you.
PDGA had number 250,000. There's an article out there about that. You can read about the gentleman named Mark Fredericks, who is PDGA number 250,000, and just how he's been in the game long in that. So please go into that. And there's a few changes to W.R. Jackson coming up, and maybe we'll get into this a little bit more next week. But they've moved hole 18 out into the open towards the IDGC Center. And they're going to be able to put some grandstands out there. I think they shortened up one of the holes as well in order to accommodate some changes and flow of people. It's all out there on the PDGA site if you want to take a look at that. I'll get more into that probably for Skip Ace in another week or so.
Yeah, and I'll be interested because I haven't was there a map? Did I see a map produced, and that's why you were talking about 18 or no? I'm just interested to see if there's going to be any Mando that kind of forces them to play it in any similar capacity.
I believe they're shortening the tee pad somewhat on 18, and they're lengthening the basket.
Interesting. Okay.
It's going to be a par 5, I think, and they're going to put OB around the basket.
And then I have to wonder if they're not. I'll just have to look because
you'll have to look, Terry.
Whole.
They talk about it.
10 that
they talk about it, Terry.
Okay.
Terry, they talk about it. Don't ask me questions. They talk about it.
Yeah. Did you listen is the question.
I didn't listen, but I skimmed.
Okay. Well,
which is as good as listening.
Yes.
Clearly.
That's all you need to do.
Bunch of new discs approved as well. Companies I've never heard of. Giant Industry. The Statue of Liberty from Giant Industry.
Interesting.
Never heard of them, but
okay.
Well,
they're on the map now officially. Battleship from Remix Disc Golf. Remix Disc Golf has, wow, is that a dozen and a half? Which is a weird number to say.
12, 13, 14, 15, 16 discs.
Pretty close. Almost a dozen.
A dozen
and
and a third. As everybody always says, a dozen and a third.
Yeah, so quite a few discs approved by them. So I'll say congratulations. It is no small feat to get a disc approved by the PDGA. Obviously, you're submitting them for the testing. Jeff Homburg and the Technical Standards Committee, Jeff reviews them. It goes to committee, and they end up getting voted on. All that other stuff. You pay a fee to then also to submit it for testing. So it's fair to say congratulations to everyone. I also see one of the ones that Nate Perkins had just mentioned to me this weekend, the Fudge from Clash discs. That's another one on there, along with Astro disc, Pie Pan disc, Infinite disc. Yeah, awesome.
Wait, Clash just the Lotus.
Yeah, that's Nate Perkins' new disc, which you can be eligible for the giveaway. If you didn't watch, you're crazy. He opens the round saying, "I have a bag full of discs and the bag to give away."
I like Nate. Clash Disc has a theme,
and you don't think Lotus fits into that? Lotus is a flower, right?
Yeah, but it's almost like their theme is flavor. It's not food
Yeah.
or flavor. So I mean, you can eat lotuses. I'm not gonna judge.
Lodi.
Yeah, but I don't know.
All right.
Call me skeptical. The disc is probably great.
It does feel great. It feels great in the hand. It holds
any line you put it on.
Yeah. It's good for
not
amateurs.
too domey.
Good for amateurs. Good for advanced players, and even pros can throw too.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great. With that, the guy that does have all the answers,
he feels great in the hand too. By the way.
Yeah, he did this weekend. We're gonna welcome to the show none other than Sun King's own Mike Barnett. You got to click on something. Oh, sorry, Mike. You're getting upgraded
on the fly.
Yeah, to Mike Barnett.
That's right.
Welcome in, buddy. How you doing? You're live with us now.
Doing good. How you guys been? All right.
We're doing pretty good. And you, on the other hand, man, have you taken a full breath since wrapping up Throw Down the Mountain, the fourth weekend?
Terry, I haven't even moved into my new house yet. It's been it's been a couple of months. Literally, like right here, I still have a stack of like Cubs jerseys and
I'm sorry
things that need to go in the closet and things like that.
Nice.
Yeah. So no, it's been a whirlwind. A lot of people may not know that not only to get this event going, which takes about 2 months, that we also had to relocate our whole operation the end of last year and relocated our store. And the previous property I was on, I also had my homestead, so I had to relocate that as well. So it's been quite a whirlwind. No, I haven't really taken too much of a deep breath. Got the TD report done. That was good.
Okay.
And started a little bit of the payout today, but we're going to get caught up mostly tomorrow. The nice part about all of this is that previously that under contract, I had to have the course cleared by Wednesday. And now that we've got kind of some things developing, it's not the same pressure, and we're a little bit more flexible on getting everything, torn down and then prepped. I don't know if you talked about it, but we're doing the other 6 weeks of play out there, which is the first time in 11 years that's happened. So,
yeah. Well, let's talk about, before we get into that, and Paul briefly touched on the idea that you're going to continue to do some stuff, and of course had praise in that regard. This event, it was ultimately set up for 6 weeks, and you had 4 weekends of competition, actually kind of a fifth one as well. So I don't know what numbers you do or don't have, or what you've compiled, but just talk about any numbers you have and the overall impact that putting on this event really has, for you, for Florida disc golf, like for the PDGA. What are these? I was going to say, what is this weekend like? What does this event mean?
Well, Yeah, the PDGA makes a lot of money off this event.
Okay, that's a starting point. Yes.
Especially, we went all 8 tiers this year, mainly because last year, you recall, we had the rain day during the pro weekend, which was, super sloppy, muddy. And then I think 3 weeks before that, we had another rain out during the intermediate weekend. And back then it was just a B tier. And the reason we did that is obvious. It's most AMs can't really take Fridays off.
Mm-hmm.
A lot don't want to, I should say. And so we always made it a 2-round B tier. The Canyon property, the throwdown course, has always been a challenge in its own. So you can almost equate it to being a third round just on the amount of time spent playing the course. It's typically a 4.5 hour round.
Mm-hmm.
So you get into that a little bit, but we ended up with a 1-day B tier last year because of the rain. And so I said, all right, well, be careful what you wish for, because now we're going to go A tier, A tier, A tier, A tier, which is a minimum of 54 holes for those keeping score at home. And so it became a 3-day event. And we ended up with similar numbers previously. We're right around 750 total players between the 4 weekends. And then we did on our open weekend, which we call an open play. It's just open to the public. I decided that I hadn't done enough tournaments in this time frame, that I would throw in a flex start C tier on the Sunday, I believe, and got another 60 or 62. So just participants on the course were over 800. We are probably 1.5 times that for total unique players. So the biggest thing about that is I don't know any other tournament that is 3 weekends, let alone 4. And I will preface that by saying that we do have it's a single course. Like, there's other tournaments out there that draw a lot of players, but they're all multiple course events and whatnot. But yeah, we really streamlined it over the years. I mean, we started as back-to-back B tiers in January, the first couple years, and that, just didn't prove well with, I think one of the days it was 29 degrees at
and daylight.
Got some of that little Arctic blast from, those Canadians up there sending some love down. And but no, we've morphed it into this big thing. And I mean, I remember early on, let's say like years 3 and 4, when things started to grow, that our wait list just showed that we could open another weekend just off the wait list. And that's where we're at today. I mean, we luckily, man, it's really timed out really good. Like, we've only had to give a handful of refunds for people on the wait list that did not get in, which I think is good for disc golf in the sense that there's such a demand for certain events, and there is turnover, obviously, with people dropping out and things like that. But our wait list was so huge that it did not even make a difference. We still ended up basically at 99.9% capacity across all 4 weekends.
Wow. Yeah. And just, I, of course, many know that I run a little C tier in November now. I'm running a B tier in a couple weeks, and any event is effort, or a tremendous amount of effort. And then to think about you in a temporary course situation with multiple layouts as they kind of progress throughout the weekends, and then the effort it takes to get the course ready, the property ready, the rental, all of those things. The fact that you guys have, parking that you have to very much coordinate so that you're as efficient as possible with fitting people in, an on-site pro shop, just all the things that go into it. It's just exhausting, honestly, talking about it. And I've known you as a tournament director now for a couple decades, but truly incredible effort. when you're thinking about all the people involved, and I know earlier I talked about Dwayne and just his longevity of a decade or so of helping out there, but how many people does this encompass when it's all said and done from on your end?
Yeah, and I think this is what a lot of people may not understand about the economics of running something to this scale. Is that we have, for just this event for 6 weeks, we have our regular staff, which is right around 8 or 9 people that are just doing the operation during the week, like during the open play. But then when it comes tournament time, and especially all right, so let me back up a little bit. The biggest thing to know is that we do 7 different layouts to match all of the skill sets that come out there. And a lot of those are even a work in progress because, to be quite honest, it's experimental at some level. Like we can add a new hole. We made a big change to hole 12 this year for the gold layout, gold and orange. And so a lot of it is just trying to tweaking to experiment for the experience for the player to have a better experience of the throw down the mountain kind of theme, and giving them as much elevation change as possible, to also me not wanting to deal with backups and slow play, and trying to design it so that the tournament itself is functional and that it doesn't create a bad experience because of, whatever, a poorly designed hole or something to where it was unknown, that might just back the tournament up. But we do a lot of experimenting, and we try to do it in little steps, right? So that we're not taking on too much to overload the system. But yeah, so come the weekends, like this past weekend, you know, Paul can do some amazing things, right? And one of them is bringing people that suddenly want to help. And I'm not complaining about anyone that we had help, but man, we definitely had a little bit of a response compared to previous years, and that all for the good for sure. But we even had a few extras on. I would say we had 4 or 5 extra people on, but we were running a labor force of about 25 or 26 people over the weekend. Friday was a little bit lighter. Just always started to pull in folks on Fridays, but yeah, to have almost 30 paid staff members. Yeah, it was, I got away the last couple of years. I've gotten away from just like, hey, here's a player's pack, check out this disc that we, grab a hat, I just wanted to have a little bit more skin in the game and the ability to move people into position based on what was needed and what the skill sets were. So I put it out there that we were going to go ahead and pay our volunteers. So, and it helped. It helped. We got a great response. And like Saturday, I wasn't even at the course yet, and just doing a lot of just back end stuff. And going back to what you're talking about, the logistics of doing something so remote, because there isn't anything close for a grocery store or food or any of that stuff. We're pretty remote. And so it's literally like when I leave my house, I literally have to like map out, what are you doing? Where are you going? What are you picking up? What are you dropping off? What do you do? Like, to get everything in line? And it's a little bit of everything. And, I tried to be super fluid with the Sam's Club visits, but there was a couple times we had to make some extra stops, and it's 20 minutes from the course. So, it's putting all that together. I mean, I know there's a lot of really good tournament directors and clubs out there that put on some amazing events. But when you start factoring in those types of X factors, like remote location compared to supply of products and things like that. Like even like new products that are hitting, like we were lucky enough to get some of the test flight Zone OS, right, that came out, I think at Memorial or something out west, and Bob Giulio hooked us up and said, "Hey, I got 100 for you." It's like, okay, well, I got to make sure I pick those up from the shop, right?
Yeah.
They're not going out to the canyon. And then it's everything from even like Thomas Gilbert had a drop while we were there, so we had to make sure that that stuff was there. New shirts coming in, new designs. Everything is just so remote. It just adds that extra layer of difficulty to just making sure things are getting out there. And we don't bat 1,000. No one ever does really, but we run pretty efficient. You know, we have a lot of communication, and I think that's key. But you know, after 11 years, we definitely got dialed in a little bit. So pretty happy with the last 2 years as we've kind of amped up. We've kind of flirted with the pro tour a little bit. We were actually on a pro tour when COVID hit, and we were in prime position, but pulling it all off and getting some of that stuff handled.
It's a big commitment to be on the pro tour. I mean,
that's
a lot of money to be raised. There's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, not just the money. I mean, I'm sure you could find a way to manage that, but just all the other things that come with it, as far as spectators and course setup, and there's just a lot involved with being on the pro tour. And I don't blame any tournament directors that don't want to do that, because we hear about it all the time. Fans are like, God, I wish the pro tour would come to Idaho or wherever, and people are like, maybe they don't want it. Like, they're pretty happy with their, 200 to 300 person event that they raise $5,000 to $7,000 for, and everybody seems to be happy. But you don't get the big pros in there, and it's very difficult.
Yeah, it's not like 15, 20 years ago when I first started running events where Florida would pull in. They actually had an NT in Melbourne for multiple years. And the Springtime Open in Sarasota was a big draw for a lot of names, along with the Triple Crown, late 90s, early aughts. And now it's so much harder to even fit in with the tour, and then the logistics of, the tour, I don't even know what the minimum requirements are anymore. I'm not sure we would be in that neighborhood with our closed window of our 6 weeks that we have to operate within. But, it is. It's a lot. And I think when you think about, like, we had one of the rings on one of the practice baskets broke. Actually, I think it broke on one of the holes on the course. I think it was 18 or something like that. And we had to replace it with one of the practice baskets. Like, I didn't have that on my bingo card. Like, what's next? Like,
yeah.
Like, we go down one more, we're down to, we're down to, both practice baskets having a broken ring on them. So it's not like you have the permanent facilities, like the bathrooms, right? You got rent bathrooms. You got to put a bunch of tents up. You got weather. You have, I don't know if you saw the pastry dyes tent went flying. I don't know if you were up there for that, but it's just all that type of stuff that wouldn't happen if you had a pavilion or some type of permanent structure. So it's a lot of additional just logistics and structure building coming into it, and to get it all done. I mean, Terry, you've been out there I don't know how many years now, but come gold and orange the last couple of years we've done that layout. We need spotters out there. We need traffic control. And it's like, you got to have good people. And, I think we've done a pretty good job of that overall.
For sure. And so with all of that being said, the I don't want to call it a nightmare, but the logistical challenges and the obstacles to overcome, the energy, the effort, the people, the money, the infrastructure, or the challenges with the infrastructure, you're going to run more golf out there. So let's talk about that. Your plan is to still be on site, on property, letting people come out and play.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell everyone what that means.
So the funniest part about this story is that my crew, especially the guys out there like DJ and Ian, and they thought the 6 weeks was starting like next week, and they were like, we just got done with 6 weeks. What do you mean there's another 6 weeks? I'm like, no. We're taking a month off. We're like,
Okay,
we don't have anything nailed down
Yeah, you'd be
yet.
crazy to do it right away. Let's take a month off.
Yeah,
Of being out
So,
there. Okay.
Yeah. So what the conversation came down when Paul and Dylan were trying to just structure how this is all going to play out. I mean, this has been a massive conversation going on since even before the property was officially changed hands, right? So they are obviously heavily invested into the property, and we're just looking for opportunities to generate revenue. And one of the plans early on was to try to do another run before it gets super, super hot here in Florida. And so we're going to do a run into, we're looking at early May, maybe that first weekend in May, and then going to the second weekend of June. And I think we're going to approach it with a little bit more casual approach and not, I don't want to say not be as serious about it, but I think we want to have a little bit more fun. And that would include, I have like 4 ideas that I'd like to do, and I may choose 2 or 3 of them and then leave the rest for kind of open play weekends, which just really takes a lot of stress off our staff. The open play does. But there's a few things I would like to do, either a doubles event, a true like doubles event, like 2 rounds out there.
Like a bring your own partner one or random?
Yeah. A BYOP.
All right.
And then also potentially maybe a team event. I've kicked around the idea for a while. I've actually thought about this for about 5 or 6 years on how to do a team event out there. And Terry, you remember I did the Monster on the Mountain back in 2018. That was our first. That was like Gold Course 1.0. That was our first time that we had cleared enough property and made enough changes to get to what our first crack at a Gold Course was. Well, I thought, well, if I keep doing that fall event, we'll have some opportunities to do some other stuff. Well, then every time I like addressed it, it was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna do all this again, like
Yeah.
Bring out all the baskets, put out all the tees, and do this again. And Monster on the Mountain, as its own entity, wasn't that successful. We actually lost money on that, and that was a lot of it had to do with just the timing, the short window we had to promote it, and then also we were only open, I think, 2 weeks instead of 6, so we can offset a lot of costs. But I wanted to fill that window, the fall window, with fun events, like something different, not just singles. So some of the things I've talked about: team event, a doubles. I talked to Bob Julio at Discraft about maybe doing a 3-disc challenge, like what they may have laying around. Sounds like there may be some new fairway driver in the works that we might be able to get our hands on. And I think that would be cool. And the other thing I thought of was when you think about like the big minis, right? The Buzz Mini, the whole line. Discraft's got a bunch. I think MVP's got some, and maybe Dynamics got a few as well. Yeah. But to do a macro junior big mini type event out there and really get people to throw big shots with small discs right out there. So just we're kicking around some ideas. We want to make it fun. I understand. Here in Florida, I've heard that it gets really hot in the summer. So we're trying to keep the course as fun and as simple as possible, to where we're not like the gold course is not going to be available. Like we're
Yeah.
not putting the 9,300 foot course out there for consumption in the middle of, 90 and 96 degree temperatures or whatever it's going to be. So, so we're trying to keep it cool and laid back, and also find kind of that sweet spot of not having to have it, fully staffed with, 10 to 25 people each week too.
Yeah, at all times.
So that is going to be a whole new challenge, Terry Miller.
Okay. Well,
Trying to
I'm
find
back
that
in
out.
Wisconsin, so good.
Yeah,
luck
you are.
with that. No,
So,
it
we're
honestly,
gonna have a good time with it. Yeah.
yeah, it sounds like an awesome opportunity. I think, Paul had made the comment earlier. He said, you're never going to see hole 5 again in the way that it's currently designed.
I'll have to go and look at that hole, find out why it's so quote unquote bad.
He
why
doesn't like the
it.
last tree. It's a blind hyzer. It's 375 downhill.
It's his land. Cut it down.
Yeah, it's a blind hyzer. And there's just literally one tree at the end that it's a flip of a coin whether you get through it or not. He happened to park it first round, got all the way through. I was
going to say, Terry, wasn't he? He had deuces on the first 2 rounds.
Yeah,
I didn't see what he got on the 3rd round. But.
So so it just, he doesn't care for that, and really it's not as much that hole as much as there's just other land very close by that he wants to incorporate instead.
Yeah.
Well, here's what's funny about it. What he wants to put in is literally a more technical version of the hole that hole 5 replaced.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah,
we had some flooding down there, and I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, we went to put the hole in. Our crew came out, and there was like 6 inches of water.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, well, I can't use that anymore. So we just slid the hole to the right on the other side of that access road. And now Paul hates it. He was pretty adamant about it. I was literally out there. We call it the crossroads there because that's where you walk from 5 to 6 and then from 8 to 9.
Yeah, Boggs, Thugs, and Harmony also play out there once in a while.
Yes, in addition. And also the little pathway up to 18. Mm-hmm. And I was over there on Saturday's round, just doing a little spot checking and filling up some water jugs there. And Paul comes up to me and he's like, only have to play this hole one more time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he told me what he wanted to do. And he wanted to basically take that little lower plateau to the left and play to the other plateau, which is the exact reverse of the old Haasfeld design, hole 10.
Yep.
It's literally just a 180 of the hole. And I was scrambling because I was like, man, do I have any chainsaws at the course? Or I wanted to go that morning and just cut that hole out and then make an announcement that there was a new hole 5 and kind of spoil it a little bit for him. But
well, wasn't it true that Paul at one point this weekend said, hey, Mike, what's your favorite hole out here? You're like, oh, the one way out in the corner. He's like, cool, I'm going to put a parking lot out there. No, he didn't say that, but it would be funny if he did. Tell me your favorite hole. Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
It is exciting. Of course, he elaborated. I think you were busy, but when you go back and hear, you obviously talked a little bit about some of the changes he wants to see. I know you're going to be in part of those conversations. And then maybe one of my last questions for you would be, people are wondering, as Paul's talked pretty openly about a Disc Golf Pro Tour event eventually evolving and being on site, we still see that, though, separate from an actual throw down the mountain event, correct? Is that kind of how you guys have at least for now positioned yourselves?
Moving forward, yeah. I mean, once again, like I think when I tuned in, you guys were talking to Paul about like how many his design courses were going to be on the tour, and for sure, I think there's some dialogue going on with Pro Tour and how that all works out remains to be seen. But what it looks like Throwdown will remain is in support potentially of that event.
Okay.
Meaning Paul kind of wants Throwdown to remain the big local tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you can imagine a pro tour is going to be, select on who's invited or who can get in, or, you got to be on the tour. Right. So, that, yeah, it definitely means some changes for us, but I think at the end of the day, and I've already had this conversation, 100 times since this has all been going on, but the overflow from what's going to come is going to be something to manage on its own. And that means you're going to have this new epicenter potentially of disc golf in Florida. And I'm not saying right away, but what I've learned over the years with Paul and what he's done, and I mean, you just look at his foundation and you look at his playing career and things like that. It's going to be a driving force in the community. And we had a really good talk. So last Monday, him and I literally covered almost every inch of the property, and I showed him a bunch of the gaps where things aren't happening, and mostly because of just massive overgrowth, things that we just never had the time to address. I always make the joke, it's either a flamethrower or napalm, and that's what you're going to need to get through there. Just to clear it, just like get in there, and you've seen the sawgrass. Now imagine 10 acres of nothing but sawgrass, or 5 acres, whatever it is.
But you haven't heard my new sawgrass solution.
He might have, and
okay, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, it's crazy back there, right? And now there's going to be resources and the manpower, the additional tools, and or earth moving resources and all sorts of other things that can be brought in that are going to be a little bit more plausible and possible when
for sure. And the bigger picture is going to be, and to go kind of step back a little bit, like the local scene. Like I started an event a few years ago called Winter Wonderland. It's an amateur only event, and the reason I use the term Wonderland was because compared to the rest of Florida, the topography there, it's called the Brooksville Ridge. And that's where I believe it runs all the way up to close to Tallahassee. But you get all this topography that you just don't get in any other part of the state. And I knew that there was potential for all these courses coming online, and some of that's starting to happen now. And now this is like the anchor. This is the new anchor to the local scene. And I had a couple guys from the county, Hernando County Parks and Rec, out there on Friday to basically give them an idea of like what is coming. Because you know how it is. It's like 10 minutes from Brooksville, and Brooksville isn't anything. I mean, it's one of those towns you kind of blink and go through, right? I mean, there's some stuff happening now, but the last 10 years before that, there wasn't much going on. And this is going to, kind of wake things up in that area. And disc golf is going to be, part of the vernacular there. And eventually, and I could see with the scope of topography that we have and the potential that we have, that it becoming the destination location in the Southeast in 5 or 10 years from now. And especially if Paul gets it, Paul and Dylan get it to where they want it to be. And, that's huge opportunity. And yeah, I mean, it's everything. I think Paul talked about a little bit earlier about not really putting cabins up there. He was talking about maybe some of those like tiny homes or whatever they call them potentially, but having something to do that would keep people there besides disc golf. Sure. There's that cement slab he was talking about, the VIP parking, like that might become pickleball, right? So, things like that. So there's a lot to really consider, a lot to put together, but I don't think he's taking any of the decisions lightly. And I think this is going to be a long thought out process, and we're happy to be part of the solution. I mean, like initially we're definitely gonna be heavily involved. Going back to the throwdown, like throwdown is going to support what's happening out there on the larger scale. And we will continue to, I could honestly make the argument we could have a fifth weekend, to be honest. So, and even though there's potentially a pro tour event coming there, we're still going to have a separate pro leg. So that doesn't go away just because pro tour comes into town, right?
Sure. Yep.
So, this just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's exciting. I will say that I can remember when I moved from the Chicago area to Florida in 2001, and we had 27 courses in the state.
Yeah.
And the closest one to me was the Grand Canyon when I moved there.
Wow.
And I was like, wait, what's this going? What is this going on? Like, so to now come full circle, like to now, have 11 years of keeping that course alive and going. And now it's going to take another step. And I told this, I was on a phone call with Paul and Dylan early on in the negotiations. And I said, I want to say something. And that is that if Mike Barnett, and I had some other investors as recently as the off season before that were interested in it for a variety of reasons. And the talk never really got full momentum with purchasing. But I said that if I somehow acquired the property through a partnership or on my own, and I did tell Paul that I did play that $1 billion lotto a few times, when it was way up there. And I'm like, you're lucky I didn't win, buddy. All right.
Yeah.
But the reality is if I owned it and Sun King was a big part of it, and we have been, to year to date, we've been the biggest thing that's happened out there, the longest operating situation. But what I could accomplish at my full potential, I don't believe is anything close to what Paul and Dylan can reach for a variety of reasons on that, right? And that's why I'm excited about it, because even though just about any person that has ever played that course has always said, man, and then going back to it, man, if I won the lottery, I'd just buy this thing straight out and waste the money, because at the time the valuation wasn't there to what you had to pay for it and things like that. But I just think that this could be, I said that this could be the biggest story of the year that's not related to some type of tournament or a player feat, like somebody broke this record or rattled off a few tournament wins in a row on the pro tour, or what, what I'm talking about.
This could be the largest. Yeah, exactly. Non-course or non-event related story of the year, most momentous impact if when it's all said and done, for sure.
Yeah. And then, because here's the kicker, so he makes the announcement, and then if all goes well, it opens in the fall, which is still in this calendar year, right? So, this story is kind of gonna grow and continue throughout that, and then we'll see how things shake out with Pro Tour and things like that and all of that stuff, and then that just rolls this story into 2024 potentially. And it's absolutely amazing. I am humbled to be part of it. I think you probably saw a little bit of that when we had a little ceremony with the key to the course and things like that. So, we're ready. We want to rock and roll. And it's kind of funny because I'm like, man, I might have to cut my touring short a little this year for some of these other projects out here, and I'm going to be okay with that.
Yeah, no, it's I'll definitely add on top of all of that without Sun King and you and your crews and volunteers, paid or non, and employees, and just the thousands and thousands of collective hours that have been put into that place, the care, the love, the dedication, it wouldn't be on the map the way that it is. And all of these thousands of people from around the country and around the world would have never played it. And the overall property wouldn't have the disc golf valuation that it did to keep it enticing, to keep it known, to have it be on the forefront of Macbeth's brain when it does become available or is in threat of being lost. Like, so you literally paved the way around that property, and that's what kept it so much in the limelight and as valuable as it really is, especially to Floridians. And so, thank you for doing that. I mean,
Certainly.
That all of the disc golfers that have come, and when you're selling out 4 weekends, you think you could even go to a 5th, and then you add up the thousands of golfers that have played there over the last 11 years, everyone leaves with a special feeling of what they just experienced. And now, Paul and Dylan are getting a lot of that credit for saving or continuing it or preserving it, in the sense that it'll keep going. But it's also that much more valuable and important because of the work that you've done so people could even realize it. So
and I appreciate that. And it doesn't go without any, like, Suzanne Krupa, the previous owner that sold to Paul, her and I had a really good, and I've known her so the little backstory on that is the first year that I did Throwdown, I dealt with her husband, Larry.
Mm-hmm.
And then he, through an unfortunate situation, I started calling him in the summer following the first Throwdown the Mountain to say, hey, need to start thinking about this. I need to start planning if we're going to do this again. So I called, didn't get an answer. And I called 2 or 3 weeks later, and Suzanne answered and told me the unfortunate news that Larry had passed away. So I knew Larry briefly, but Suzanne is who I've dealt with for the last 10 of the 11 years. And we had after knowing her for 11 years, or 10 years, I'm sorry, we had a very awesome conversation after it was official that the property was going to switch. And that's exactly what she said to me. She said, Mike, I just want to tell you that I really thought a lot about this. And then she's like, if you hadn't, had the energy and vision to come and beg Larry, because I think I went to him 3 or 4 times before he agreed to let us do the first one. And then, side note, after the tournament registration sold out in minutes, the first one, he was going to pull the plug because he didn't think the insurance was good enough. So I was scrambling to get the copy of the PDGA insurance to him. But all the things that her and I have talked about over the years, it just never really came up until we went through this whole process, which took about 3 weeks to broker the deal between them. And I was pretty hands-on with that all the way up until.
Yeah, you got a big old commission check, right? What is that? I mean, you were acting on the buyer and the seller. You better have gotten that full 6%.
Yeah, Paul's going to give me like 5 acres out there, I think. But it's the 5 acres he doesn't want to use. Right?
5 acres of sawgrass.
That's landlocked. That nobody can get.
Right, no easements.
Yeah. No. But it was really amazing. And it meant a lot to me because I didn't even think of it that way. I'm just doing what comes natural, and what my instinct is to try to put on the best show possible in the in the window that we had. And she was right, though. I mean, at some level, disc golf became a thing out there. I mean, a lot of the local businesses now say, "Oh yeah, it's disc golf time again," things like that, and that's all part of that. And I didn't really think about it at the time, but it sure meant a lot to me in that conversation when she said that to me. So yeah, that's out of all the accolades that we get, that might have been one of my favorites to get, was her saying, you're doing what you're doing, but we would have never got here. Like Paul can't buy it if there's no tournament, right? There's no, things like that. So
Yeah,
Paul and
I mean
Dylan.
that's what I mean.
So-
You keeping it on the map, so to speak, and keeping it in the forefront of everyone's brain, and then every year just getting reminded of how epic the property is and the opportunities are that are out there. That's all owed to you and your entire crew that have been out there for all those years. So awesome, and I feel honored
and a
that
big hats off, and the staff has been. We've gone through people, but in the sense of the scale and scope of it, but and it's the players too, right? I mean, I always say to people, like, they're always like, hey, thanks for doing this. I'm like, well, thanks for coming, because if you don't show up, I'm just some dude out here standing in a 60-acre chunk of land, right?
Cow pat.
Yeah, with a bunch of cow pies.
Or you're shoveling cow patties and whatnot. But no, I'm very humbled by the whole experience, and just what's that saying? The harder I work, the luckier I get, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's kind of one of those things, and I never saw this ever developing this way. I mean, I remember Paul, first time I met him was at Players Cup in 2006, maybe 2007. And I think what you guys talking about earlier is his haircut, the old
shag.
Call it?
Yeah. He had like the old Justin Bieber shag for a while. Then he went with like that faux hawk or the frosted tips, and
that was like sitting there in that moment, like not knowing what the future would hold, like in the sense of like, you're going to do business with this guy, and this guy's going to be a great disc golfer, and just how things come full circle, I guess, is my point. And it's like, that was back when the Players Cup, I mean, that was a major. I mean, that was a PDGA major back then. A lot of people don't realize that. And now to kind of come full circle, and really in where the area that I started too, when I first moved to Florida, it's the backyard. So good stuff. And I'm really stoked. I'm really happy. And I think there is going to be a great direction. And I think this is going to be one of those things that is a catalyst, as if we don't have enough already, right? A catalyst for disc golf. This is going to be another giant catalyst in a long list of them. And this is going to put a lot more golf discs in people's hands than I think people realize.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you'll be selling them some as well, and reaping some of those benefits. Mike, it's been awesome. I think I've now been there for 10 out of the 11. I was not there the first year. I'd have to go back and double check. Maybe I wasn't there the second year. I'm not sure when it was, but whether it's 8 or 9 or 10, it's been more of them than not. And it's been just so incredible to see the event and all the energy and work and effort and the much deserved accolades that you've received for it. Before we let you go, how can people support you and what you're doing? Give any final shout outs or thanks to your sponsors and the people that you work most closely with. I know you're a vendor, but I mean, this event and everything else is a unique beast in its own. So floor is yours on that.
I mean, for us to get where we were, I mean, we were doing pretty good, but I do want to say a shout out to Discraft. And I mean, I've had an incredible relationship with that company since before I moved to Florida. I don't think a lot of people realize that too. This goes back to the old Keith Murray days.
Yes,
right? So,
yes. Who we clearly I just visited and hung out with in Arizona a few weeks ago. So, that's cool.
So, I mean, this is 2000, 2001. And then when I relocated here to Florida, that relationship continued and just got stronger and stronger. And I mean, they're amazing to work with, and I want to shout out to Bob and Mike and even Jim back in the day, Jim Kenner. I mean, coming down to Players Cup, and they supported that event. I mean, they used to cut a check for $25,000 for that event, without hesitation. So, and even going to the guys in the office, you got Eric and Paul, and those guys take care of me there. But to support us directly, I mean, it's just super simple. I mean, come to our store. I mean, we've got the largest inventory in the Southeast, and we're right up there with anybody else on the Eastern Seaboard. And I would put us against anybody else, to be honest. We've got tons of selection. Come check us out. Put us on Facebook. Order some product. I mean, it's put your money where your mouth is, I guess. And we're not always the cheapest, but we've been around for 2 decades, and I honestly like to say that we're the company that grows disc golf in Florida the most. And I don't want to brag about that. I just know we've done it. So it's just a lot of hard work by a lot of good people. And if you support us, it just makes everything we do a little bit easier.
I couldn't agree more. And it's very evident in the successes that you've had, the things that you've learned. Everything's not always rosy, and we all know there's challenges in running the business, and to continue to grow and then put yourself in front of thousands of people every single year trying to provide the best possible tournament and service to them. And not everything's always perfect because, like you said, nobody can bat 1,000, but we know that your heart and soul are always in the right place to try and make it happen as best as you can to all of your capabilities. And I think that becomes pretty obvious when people are out there and at your events and spending any time with you. It makes it pretty easy to see that. So.
Yeah,
Right,
it's good passion, energy, and we hope that that's rubbing off on, as many people as we come in contact with, for sure.
Yeah, it definitely has, and I think it'll continue for many, many years, as long as McBeth doesn't put you out to pasture and he lets you show up on his property and let you do a few more cool things. Even if he didn't, you're going to be just fine. We all know that. Well, Mike, thank you for joining us. Thank you. Again, I'm sure a lot of people will never realize, no matter how many times the story does or gets told, people won't even always fully understand or realize that you getting that call from Suzanne, and then ultimately making the connection to Paul and Dylan, how impactful just that knowledge, that foresight, that idea, and getting them involved, how that is one little decision tree in all of life, and to see how that's gonna blossom probably for decades and maybe even alter the path of Florida disc golf. Like it's truly incredible, and that's because, like you said, you're in the right place at the right time doing the right things. That's how that all unfolds. So
yeah,
thank you.
No, I appreciate it, guys. Johnny, always a pleasure.
Always.
T-Dog, we'll see you on the flip side, brother.
We'll see you later, buddy.
See you later, Mike.
Thanks for joining us tonight. Have a good one, Mike.
See you guys.
Yeah, there you have it. Mike Barnett. It's been a wild but awesome journey all these years.
Yeah, I just remember, it's really funny because obviously we've known Mike for a long time, and I just always think of how integrated he is into Florida now, that I have relatives who, this was 10 years ago, who knew nothing about disc golf. But one day they came to me and they were like, "Hey, do you know Mike?" I was like, "Mike who?" They're like, "Mike from Florida. Like, he does disc golf thing, like Sun King." I'm like, "Oh, you Barnett?" They're like, "Yeah, we met him. He says he knows you." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know
he
Mike."
Claimed that?
Yeah, apparently.
There's one of his early
he
mistakes.
Fessed up right away. So, that to me is always amazing, that Mike has been able to expand and grow Florida disc golf that much. He's an unsung hero of that region.
Yeah, and clearly people continue to grow and thrive and create companies, but they're planting a seed and then letting it and then even fostering that growth in whatever way. You can put in a course, and then that's going to generate leagues, that's going to generate tournaments, that might generate the idea of somebody else down the road opening their shop. All of these different things that he's been involved with, and clearly there's other godfathers within and pioneers of the sport in Florida that also then set him up for success. But his torch has been burning very bright for a number of years. And I don't think that's going to change. So.
And I won't even hold it against him that he's a Cubs fan.
In all fairness, fairness isn't the word, but in all coincidence, opening day, you had Mike Barnett, myself, and Kevin McCoy all sitting around in the parking lot. 3 guys, none of which live in Chicago. All 3 of us Cub fans. Those 2 keeping up more than I do for sure, but have all had decades of Cub backing and fandom, and I actually took a picture even.
A great event or a great day to be watching as well as
exactly.
As the Cubs beat the Brewers on that first game and then
you got it.
Lost the next 2.
It's just okay. Don't worry about
it. They scored 12 tonight though, so
all right, good.
The Cubs did.
Sosa is back at it.
He is corking bats and taking names.
As long as we got Dunston at shortstop and Grace on first with Dawson out in center, we're doing just fine. Hawk is on it.
I saw something as I was kind of scrolling on. We'll get into we won't even talk about this in the after show because it really doesn't need to be talked about. But the Brewers are the first team, I believe, to ever go back-to-back-to-back home runs in one inning, followed by the next inning going back-to-back home runs. So 100 years of stats, and that's apparently the first time it's happened. So
interesting.
Pretty funny.
All right, that's the Brew Crew. Yep. All right. Well, with that, I think we can close it. I could go for a beverage. I have to wait till I get home.
Go outside and open your mouth.
Yeah. Okay. And speaking of news and brews, yes, did I see way earlier, hours ago? Murder Mike jumped onto our stream and specifically even got in on the super chat. Murder Mike out there. I heard there's a reboot, maybe.
Yeah,
I've also heard about 9 different possibilities of reboots, but I think I most recently heard there might be a reboot of Disc Golf News and Brews. But Murder Mike, thank you.
I hope so. I think there's a crew for everybody.
There absolutely is. So, but he jumped on the super chat, and we thank you. And I apologize. There was another person. Maybe I can find it. If I can, I'll look for it. There was somebody else who jumped on the super chat as well earlier tonight, and we very much appreciate it. If you jump on there and tell us who you were, I'd gladly shout you out.
Yeah,
but I saw it come through earlier. Why I'm a Cubs fan, I'll talk about that briefly in the after show. That was a whole nother story. Let's go ahead and wrap things up, folks. It's been Smashbox TV's podcast 449. It's been a heck of a night here, getting so many great insights out of a couple of now Floridians, Mr. McBeth, along with
Florida Man.
Yeah, the Florida Man times 2. Maybe that should be our clickbaity title. Florida Man does it again twice, along with Mike Barnett. So thank you guys both for joining us. And thank you, incredible group of people out here watching tonight, taking all the action. We very much appreciate it. Of course, we'll have a little bit of an after show where we'll talk about things disc golf related or non-disc golf related. Anything is up for debate or for conversation at that point.
Think of your question, throw it in the board.
Do that. And Johnny V has already pulled, and it looks like we've got a new set of names to pull from for our Patreon giveaway. So you like free stuff. If you're cheap like me, you're in it for the free stuff, and that's what we're going to give away in the after show.
Credits are all updated. We got everything going on tonight.
We got it. So for Johnny V, I'm the disc golf guy. That's 449. We'll see you in the after show when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 449's
After Show. The Party Podcast doesn't sing together.
Shh. Figures. What kind of party is that?
It's not much of one. I mean, they've got like good information, especially about the FPO game and stuff. Which is why I listen.
Probably do research.
Well,
Who does that? Who's got time for that?
I don't know, but they don't sing.
Well, then I ain't listening. Again.
Still?
Yes.
No, I like to listen to the Party Podcast because I don't feel there's enough podcasts about the FPO division specifically.
Yeah.
We tend to focus, well, most podcasts tend to focus on MPO. You know, we all kind of dip our toes into FPO as well. We try to keep it relatively equal, but they are focused strictly on FPO, and I like hearing their perspective. So if you enjoy the FPO game, which I know a lot of you do, the Party Podcast, because the Ladies of the Chains haven't really, they haven't been as regular as they were at one point. So this has filled my FPO niche.
Well, that, where can they find that, Johnny?
You can find that on any podcasting app, or if you want to watch it, you can go to DGN. But you can get it now on any podcasting app, which is why I've started listening to it again. I used to try to make time to watch it, but I ain't got time for that. Set aside time to go to DGN. DGN's great, but not for my podcasts. I need to hear them. I can listen to them whenever I want. And I will say this, they keep it to a tight 30 minutes.
Shh.
Literally.
Gosh, what are they doing right? So they don't sing and they keep it to 30 minutes. I don't know.
I don't know either, but
That's 2 strikes for me.
It works great because I will start it on as I leave my driveway, and it is almost always wrapping up as I pull into my parking spot at work. It's almost the exact 30 minutes. I get one full podcast in. So,
man, what a novel idea.
Hey, we do that just for long haul truckers.
We do that. We just give you an entire week's worth of commuting.
Yeah, we get a week's worth of commuting.
Yeah, exactly. I think one thing we can be a little bit more diligent on, and we'll Johnny or I could tackle this, is I do like the idea, especially on a night like tonight where we had, of course, the podcast in general will be long if you listen to it in its entirety. But a night like tonight, great example is just trimming out and releasing separately the Paul McBeth conversation, where we can just take that, put this right back here on the channel, and then release it, with really just start to finish nothing but that.
I've done that a little bit with some interviews. I did it with Ricky. I did it with Gannon.
Sure.
Maybe I'll do it with Paul as well. Usually, if it's a nice clean cut with a interview that I think a lot of people are going to want to listen to, I will try to pull that out.
Don't gatekeep people. Let's give them all to them.
I do gatekeep though a little bit. I'm not gonna
lie. Speaking of nice clean cuts and edits, woo-wee, you'll be so proud of me.
No, I won't.
Not for the first part. So this weekend, I just want to give a little quick behind the scenes. Nate Perkins and I ultimately, first of all, big shout out to Nate. He essentially insisted that he joins me again on the mic, and
so you're saying he forced his way into your pot?
He forced himself on me.
That's different.
He last year asked the same. He said, "Hey, can I join you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love it." And I say this all the time. I usually do solo, only because of timing and or because it's a huge hassle to get someone, especially if I need to record in the middle of the night, right? Well, last year, Nate and I ended up doing the commentary. It was really gracious of him. We had a great location to do it because we had an extra hotel that was getting used by some cameramen, so that's how we could pull it off every day. It still had its challenges, but we made it happen, thanks, again, largely to Nate's flexibility. This year, he said he'd like to join again. I said, great, I'd love to take you. That'd be awesome. And just some of the logistics of where and when to be able to actually record is what became more challenging, because I was trying to have a concerted effort to do FPO and MPO releases both on the next day.
How'd that work for you?
Big mistake number one, right? Again, until I have more editing power, that's just not humanly possible to do both rounds of coverage and to do the commentary on them and to then be responsible for the rendering and uploading. just as a reference point, yes, Jomez is finding ways to pull this off week in and week out.
They also have a very large crew.
They're
Multiple editors, remote people,
different commentators. In that they have two people sit down that are not part of the production. They other than commentating.
I mean, I'm hearing a lot of excuses.
I was just going to say, I'm not making excuses. I'm giving though the logistics of it. That is how they can do it, and it largely starts with multiple editors. And so Nate and I had recorded. We did a quick test right before getting started. Everything was fine. We did the test, and then we recorded. I don't even remember. I'm truly losing track of when this was. This must have been Saturday morning. Yeah, Paul McBeth lent us his RV space because we didn't want to do it in the house. So I met out Nate Perkins. I was editing till like 6 a.m. We met out in the RV in the driveway at 9 so that we could do commentary on the men's coverage. FPO was already done. And we did the recording, and I got it all rendered out, did all this other stuff, got it posted a little bit later that day, which was a challenge finding good internet. We get it posted, all just to find out that the back 9, the Kogi returned. The font issue that I had for 9 of the holes at the Memorial returned after I had it fully posted. And what you guys were seeing was some crazy either it's just a crazy font and or it's a font of another language or something, or a combination. I don't know yet.
Well, when a computer can't read a font, it defaults to like an ASCII kind of thing, just like a default. It's more or less wingdings. I mean,
Sure.
because it can't read the font, and it sounds like your editing software for whatever reason couldn't talk to Adobe's server to authenticate a font that you had, or it was pulling the font from online, which if you didn't have an internet connection at the time when you did it, when you rendered it out, maybe it couldn't grab it to render out that font, is what it appears to be.
Something of that nature, yes.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because...
Or you're using the Dvorak keyboard layout.
Yeah. So, of course, I didn't notice this. When it had happened, when we rendered it, got it uploaded. And just to be clear for everyone out there, on average, if I'm just using a generality, on average, you're usually looking at about an hour to render out and export where your computer's virtually useless. You're looking on average about an hour for it to render 9 holes. And then, again, depending on your internet connection, it can be anywhere from 10 minutes to 3 hours and 10 minutes to upload 9 holes. Again, that's always internet dependent. So when there's an error that's truly not fixable, it's a major decision to say, I'm going to pull this down. I've maybe already linked to it. I've maybe already tweeted about it. I've already put it out there. To pull something down to then replace it, it rips your soul out as a YouTube creator of any kind. It's just the worst feeling in the world, especially if it's been out there and some people have seen it and are linked to it or anticipating it, such as coverage. So Saturday night, that's what I ended up doing. After I did commentary with Ellen on round 2, I then made the decision, oh my God, this is terrible timing, but I'm going to turn it down. I'm going to pull down round 1's back 9 and then ultimately replace it, putting me a few hours behind schedule. I'll fast forward, another challenge, this and that, lots of editing, blah, 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 blah. We do round 2's commentary on Sunday morning for what was round 2 that happened on Saturday. So Sunday morning, we're doing round 2's commentary. Everything's fine. We do it. I go to get it ready to get it rendered to put online. There's something wrong with the first couple of holes of Nate's audio. Like, I think with faulty wiring of mine, I think he's accidentally moved the mic so it didn't sound the same as it tested 30 seconds prior in testing when it sounded fine. I think there was something bad with the cable. Sure enough, 3 holes in, he must have adjusted the mic slightly because boom, crystal clear. Sounds great. It's back. It's normal.
And you couldn't just re-record the 3 holes?
Not when this was realized a half a day later, right? And we're trying to fight to get these out. So I'm able to mess with the audio a little bit to get it all ready to go for the front 9. Back 9, similar, except for it's 6 of the 9 holes. Oh. And he's not even audible.
Yeah.
In the front 9, he was audible. It was just a little low, so I apologize. In the back 9, it was like he was muted for 6 holes. So again, at that point, you're redoing it. That's 45 more minutes of commentary. That's another hour of rendering, and that's another hour of uploading. Here's where you'll be most proud, Johnny.
Okay.
Those 2 cables connected to my really expensive microphones, those 2 XLR cables, have been thrown away.
Well, thank you.
So this will not ever happen again with those 2 cables. I just tossed them. I don't know if one was more bad than the other. It doesn't matter because they look identical. They were both just tossed in the trash. So that particular problem with those cables can't happen again.
One of the things I used to tell our camera guys when Smashbox kind of ran the show, and I think I've even mentioned to the camera guys on the tour, if there's ever an issue with a cable, take it out, cut it in half. Every time, just cut the cable. You don't ever want to like wrap it up and set it somewhere like, oh, I'm going to throw that away in a garbage and then have somebody else grab it. Oh, I can just put this away for you. Just literally cut a cable in half when you're
rendering it useless.
Rendering it useless. Just get rid of it. I don't ever want to see it again. It should never ever make its appearance. Cables are in general cheap and replaceable in general, depending on the type of cable. Did you make sure to get the ones with the gold tips though for the better audio sound?
Yeah, those
the monster
cables,
XLR cables.
Yes, because those were the top sellers at Best Buy back in 1998. Yeah. So also and what this really also drives home, I said it today. Maybe you captured the frustration within the Instagram story when I posted it, but because I had a different issue. We're always learning. What I also learned from this weekend is I am done with these. So if you can see right here, if you're watching, I'm done with the arms.
The boom
because
arms?
That also was part of this issue in that he adjusted the arm, and then that's what ended up shorting the cable. And let me be 1,000,000% clear. I'm not blaming Nate Perkins for any of this. I'm just saying what happened. And here's why I mean this. I for the last year or so have been traveling around the country using these really nice arms, just like most podcasters do. The challenges include mounting them.
Yep, because you have to have a certain thickness of table. You have to have a little bit of overlay on the table, things like that.
You would cry if you saw how difficult these were actually to mount in almost every place you go. This table's perfect.
I know. That's one of the reasons.
1 in 1,000, because every other place they're really difficult to mount. Secondly, they're super heavy, so they're taking up a lot of weight in my suitcase because I have to carry them with me. And then lastly, the alternative that I'm going to go to is just going to become a headset. So just like you see myself or Ian or Philo or whomever, it's going to be a headset that will then have a microphone in front of it, just like we use every single weekend. Because you need a headset anyway to listen to the commentary or listen to what's going on here. And then you need a good microphone. So although I'll say they're a tad clunky maybe to pack along and carry, they're going to weigh a lot less, and they're going to solve two or three problems in one.
You're going to be getting, and I'll say this just as a nitpicky, slightly less good audio out of them. Slightly.
Hopefully,
because
it's negligible, and hopefully it's worth the payoff of what they're going to provide in
agreed.
the advantage
I think all
category.
your advantages are going to outweigh the downside. I mean, whenever you have a nice condenser mic like this, it's
generally,
it's generally going to sound better. It's going to come through better. It's going to filter better. All that other stuff. You get that headset. It can sound it can cut some frequencies out, we'll say. But I think most people won't care. Most people won't notice. I'll never listen to one of your podcasts or shows again.
Yeah, well, then that's a win in my book.
I'm just kidding.
So
I don't listen now.
Exactly. So those were some of the stories and challenges. I had a bad cable. I literally had a hard time getting these arms mounted because I was setting up and taking down studios in various places throughout the weekend. You know, if in this situation when they're mounted and they're not moving, this is great. But
there's also downsides to having it on the table, because then you can, people put their hands down. You can
sometimes hear some additional
noises and things like that. It's further away from their from their mouth.
From their mouth, be less consistent.
Exactly. So having the headset, I believe, is the best route for you.
So
good job.
All part of the learning process. So that will be my next very significant purchase. The bad news is, if you're talking about a quality version of those headsets, like a good quality, I'm not talking the best by any means, because I'm not buying them for thousands of dollars, but if you're talking about a good quality set of those headsets with microphone,
minimum $200, probably closer. The good ones are probably like $299.
yeah,
And then you have to worry about people that complain about how uncomfortable they are to wear. We've heard that from different commentators, that certain headsets, because for a while the Pro Tour had two different styles. They had like
Sennheiser
and Audio-Technica, and there were some of them that some commentators didn't like because they didn't feel comfortable on their ears versus other ones. Some commentators like the other ones and not those. It's, again, you're not going to have to deal too much with this because they're not going to be wearing them for 4 to 5 hours. They'll be wearing them for, a half hour at a time, 45 minutes. Then they can take them off, take a nice little rest, put them back on. But I get you. I feel you, bro.
So that's way more behind the scenes.
Just give them some beats
talk,
by Dre.
But that was all part of the weekend, and I'm just done with the idea of taking these. As much as I really love the idea, if I'm traveling solo, I have no problem necessarily. I have less of a problem bringing this arm and going that route. But I think when it's all said and done, it's just going to be easier to move on to headsets. Unfortunately, I'm still going to have to travel with this mini mixer in order to plug in multiple headsets. But I'm actually kind of excited to. I'm excited to price them out. I'm not excited to pay for them, but I am excited to get them and hope that this is a comfortable solution moving forward for any on the road. And again, not excuses, but I think I've been in the GK Pro RV. It's great because
do they use headsets?
Yeah, they use headsets, and they are always in the same spot.
Yeah.
Their commentators for years are in the same spot time and time again. There's a consistency there that they've been able to build in for a long time. And me trying to do commentary in 6 different places over 3 different days this weekend, it just presented a different challenge every time. So I'm hoping to address some of the obstacles and hurdles.
Get whatever they have, because I've listened to the GK Pro stuff. It sounds fine. I never would have guessed those are headsets.
Yeah.
That's great. Get whatever they have.
No, I can't afford that.
But I also
GK Pro.
Do you record right to the file, or do you have a separate recording?
So I have recorded right to the actual timeline, and obviously there's advantages and disadvantages to that as well. And I think the minimum of what I should be doing is, if I'm recording that timeline, I should also be recording to some kind of backup device as well, is what I really should be doing. But that'll be my next set of complaints in a couple months. I didn't record.
When you didn't record.
Yeah. No, there's no way I could do it by not recording.
Correct.
So that I don't have to worry about. But I also should have been monitoring. That's the other lesson. I should have been monitoring what Nate was saying, rather than just doing a quick test and then us being good to go after a test. If we had live monitoring, then I maybe would have heard some of those issues in the first place. Maybe.
That's true.
Who knows?
Keith Vance asked, Terry, have you been eating powdered donuts? Or is your beard getting more gray?
I was going to say, am I getting fatter still? No, I think I admitted this not too long ago somewhere. Maybe it wasn't publicly.
Just admitted to himself. His support group.
I officially have this camera's not doing it. Good. Well, then let's keep this camera. I have officially started
graying,
getting more gray, and I feel like they've come on very strong in the last few months.
On the sides, right?
Mostly still on the sides, but a little bit on the top.
Not gonna lie, Terry, and I didn't say anything. When we all hung out for shared birthdays,
watch your mouth.
I was sitting next to you just like this as we were chatting, and your daughter was on this side. We're chatting with her, and I turned this way, and I could see more. And I wasn't 100% sure if it wasn't just, it was a little darker in there. And I was like, I'm like, but those are spotting there, Tara. Those are spotting.
They are. And I'm here for it. As I've always said, I feel very fortunate to have the thickness everywhere. I have the thickness in
the thickness from head to toe, Tara.
You betcha. But yes, Yeah, it feels like it's coming in. It's definitely coming in a little bit.
It's been coming
more
there
here.
for a while.
But a little more pronounced.
All right.
So very valid question. But no, I have not been eating more donuts. That much I have not.
Powdered donuts specifically.
Any donuts for that matter.
Neither have I, which is really sad. Because I'm a donut guy. I love donuts.
Yeah, you do.
Like I really like it's. I would say if I have a sweet tooth for anything, it's a good donut. Usually just like a Long John, no filling, vanilla, or a ring donut with vanilla on it. Maybe some sprinkles sometimes.
Yeah.
Not usually.
Some Jimmy's.
Some Jimmy's. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like the really hard crunchy ones that are shaped like some weird like St. Patty's Day thing.
Yeah.
Just got to be your straight Jimmy's.
Yuck.
But I am a sucker for donuts. And when we moved to this place, the Sendik's around the corner, not great donuts.
Well, that could be to
which is to my advantage. And even the Pick and Save, which normally has really good donuts, here on the north side or on the north side of town, this Pick and Save not great. Because a good donut is a little bit almost oily in the base of it, and the top cream has to be soft, and not like when you bite it shouldn't crack.
And
crunch.
Crust.
And unfortunately, both places up here have them like that. Unlike the one down the Pick and Save on the south side of town, which I thought had the best donuts in town. So I've moved away from my donut place, which means I've been doing a lot less donuts and almost no donuts for the last, I won't say none, but almost none for the last year and a half. Occasionally I'll swing by and just be like, I could go for one. And then I order 4.
1 dozen.
Just kidding. Again, instead it's smoothies now. I'm just loading up on smoothies.
I like it. Chocolate covered Long Johns, Keith says. All right, here's what I will. I'll try and go through actually relatively quickly the how I'm a Cubs fan. Even though Johnny V and I, again for perspective, we're in the Milwaukee area right now. Of course, where the Brewers are. We both grew up approximately 2 hours north of here, just south of Green Bay. So definitely Brewers being the closest and the home state team to us. But how I became a Cubs fan, a multitude of reasons. First and foremost, at that time, this was mid to late 80s, every day when you came home, the Cubs were on WGN. They had a 105 game, which meant when I got in from school.
And they didn't ever play night games back then.
Because they didn't have lights until 1988. So
I've got the card.
So do I. That score.
the score
card.
The lights came on.
Yep,
whatever.
Exactly. So the Cubs played in the afternoons. WGN, which is a semi-local station when you live in this general area. I guess it's nationwide.
It's
but anyway.
nationwide,
but it was definitely available. You had to turn a little dial on the cable box to get to it. But WGN Channel 9 every day, and then Harry Carey. Will Ferrell may do a good Harry Carey, but the real Harry Carey was clearly iconic for so many ways and reasons. So always on when I came home. I played a lot of baseball as a kid. I played first base, and I was a decent baseball player, maybe to some surprise. But you came home in the afternoons, so the Cubs game was always wrapping up, or 6th, 7th inning, whatever, because I was home just before 3 o'clock. The Cubs at the time, and still are, were in the National League. Mm-hmm. And that was just truer baseball to me. I just, once I even understood the concept of a designated hitter, I just thought it was stupid. And I to this day think it's stupid.
Well,
I get it.
There is no such thing as a designated hitter now, only because everything is a designated hitter. They don't even, both leagues now. So
stupid. I hated that though. And at that time, a little bit more, the Cubs were in the National League. Meanwhile, the Brewers at the time were in the American League. So the Brewers, yes, like the Bucks, largely at that time frame, 20-some years ago. Things have changed, but the Brewers and the Bucks,
irrelevant.
Not just irrelevant, but I never heard my dad screaming in jubilation at the AM radio. Right, like we were always frustration and disappointment. Because, if he was yelling about the Brewers, even though Bob Uecker was calling the shots, and we had Paul Molitor and Robin Yount and Raleigh Fingers and all, whatever, some of the greats, the Brewers, outside of 83, which I was only 5 years for.
The early 80s were better for the Brewers. I mean, they went to the series in 82. And then,
outside of that, and we were only 4.
Exactly. We were too young for that. So during our prime years, they sucked.
Exactly. So another reason, that was very true of both the Bucks and the Brewers in the mid-'80s. a little bit of the Packers as well.
Oh God, the Packers sucked.
Don Mikowski, Randy Wright, the only two other Packers quarterbacks.
The Packers stunk until basically Mikowski, and we kind of were then just mediocre. And then when Favre came in.
So I always say I never heard my dad yelling positive things about Bucks or Brewers games on the radio when we're in the car, when that's largely how you watch or listen to games. So for all those reasons, and then last but maybe not least, my aunt lives in a suburb of Chicago. I always, even to this day, equate so many amazing memories that when we traveled from up in the Appleton area down to Illinois, it usually either meant I was going to my aunt's, who I have just fond memories of being at their house and hanging out with my cousins and aunts and uncles at their place, and or going to Illinois meant you were going to Great America. Six Flags Great America. Those are the only two reasons almost you exclusively left when you were a kid.
Yep. In
the 80s or early 90s. The only two reasons you left Wisconsin and went into Illinois were for some kind of sporting event, possibly, or maybe the Shed Aquarium or something of that nature, or usually though Great America. Great America
barely over the border.
Is just 10 minutes south of the Illinois-Wisconsin border. So it didn't even feel like Chicago or Illinois. But that was the exciting place to go. So in general, I had all those fond memories of Chicago and Illinois. The Bulls happened to be in their prime in the early to mid 90s. Also a time when I'm collecting cards. And
the mid 80s, like Jordan came on in like 84,
and then Jordan
85,
so,
something like that.
Why I didn't then ultimately turn around and like the Bears, no particular reason, because like I said, the Packers weren't great either. I think actually the Bears were largely better at that time frame.
Mid 80s for sure.
So those are all the reasons. I think that's everything, but that's truly why. And it's clearly because I wasn't a bandwagon fan, because we all know that the Cubs for 108 years sucked, and then just won one World Series in 2016. So it wasn't that, but it was just there's so much. It felt like such true baseball when you talk about Wrigley, the ivy, the brick wall. Just, and I know people, it's not the most up to date park. In fact, it's the opposite. But just there's this nostalgia and this feeling of like hardcore baseball and
I mean,
tradition.
It's kind of dumpy.
A little bit. Of
like
course.
It's getting better. They're remodeling and things in that. But compared to newer stadiums, like you go to I'm going to call it Miller Park, even though it's not Miller Park anymore. It's AmFam Field. You go to AmFam Field. Even that's 20 years old now, but it is a much nicer experience as far as where you sit and, the restrooms, the restaurants, the activities for kids that maybe don't want to sit and watch the game. And there's just so much more to do there than there is at Wrigley, but it's a different experience.
Totally different.
When you
You're
go
also
to
not walking to AmFam Park, really, for the most part. You're not walking to Milwaukee. I mean, there's clearly something very special about Wrigley for the setting and the community in which it's in. So those are all the reasons why. And similarly, you could say same things, even though I had gone to one of a couple of early White Sox games at brand new Comiskey at the time, because that's where my cousin happened to get free tickets to. So we went when we were down there visiting. All the same reasons I didn't fall in love with the White Sox as opposed to the Cubs is because they too were in the American League, which still had no interest to me.
Which I think I've mentioned this before. I didn't grow up a Brewers fan. I was more of a Red Sox fan. And same issue with the Cubs. They weren't winning back then.
Sure.
But for whatever reason, when I started collecting baseball cards, I latched on to Wade Boggs.
Yeah. How couldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? He was just he was always like that really solid player. 300 hitter, not many home runs.
Great mustache.
Just
the kind of guy you like.
He was for whatever reason the guy that I was like, I think I got like a bunch of his cards, and so I was like, oh, this is my guy. And when you're 11 or 10, him, Mike Greenwell, Oil Can Boyd, you start collecting them. And it wasn't until I kind of probably was like 13, 14. And I believe it was right around then the Brewers made the move over to the National League. Maybe it was a little later than that. But anyway, it wasn't until I kind of was like, oh, cards don't interest me anymore. Sports teams do. That I switched over to being a Brewer fan again. And I'd never disliked the Brewers because they had Molitor and they had Yount. But I wasn't a huge Brewer fan back in the day. I would listen to them, just like any baseball team, but I was a bigger Red Sox fan for a while, for a few years.
No, and it's funny because if we really think about it, like you just alluded to, card collecting, whether it was their value or their look or their picture or whatever, card collecting largely could shape and mold your perception and your affiliation, right? And maybe there's some similarities to disc golf right now. For so long, Innova has largely held the majority of the collectability and collectible value for many years for discs, and it was harder to find a multitude of very expensive collectible discs that weren't from Innova. And maybe in a similar way, cards kind of help shape and mold either a team or a particular player that you liked. There was probably some of that, just think about when Bo Jackson, was the dual athlete of doing football and baseball, and then you were looking at his cards and the cards that
the
had
black and white
value.
card with the bat on the shoulders.
Exactly.
I
Bo
mean,
knows.
Bo knows.
So all of those types of things could help shape and mold. And if you loved Bo Jackson, maybe it didn't matter if you played for the Royals or whatever team, you possibly just became a fan of that person. And it's so funny because obviously those are all way pre-internet days and just a totally different conversation. But hanging out at a card shop has some similarities today to what we get out hanging out at a disc golf shop. Similar, like-minded people, sometimes with nothing better to do, but sitting around talking about the current day's, situation and tournaments and games or whatever. It's
we clearly
really
need the Beckett Baseball Card Monthly of discs.
Yeah, and
because I truly, there isn't really truly a good standard. I mean, again, one of the things that we used to love as a kid was every couple months you'd get a Beckett Baseball Card Monthly, and you'd open it up and you'd look at all your favorite cards and what they were worth. If they went up 5 cents, down 5 cents, oh look, I've got this error card and it's worth $3.
Yeah, and next week it's worth 50, and in 2 months it's worth 30 cents.
30 cents again. And I think it would be really cool to be able to have some sort of central location. Doesn't truly have to be a magazine, obviously, for an estimated cost for discs. And I know it's very subjective, but again, we have subjective. It was the same for cards because you had mint condition cards and near mint, similar to discs. I want to go there and look up, how much is a first run Buzz right now? Is it $80? Is it $120?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going for $220 this month for whatever reason? And watch those fluctuate. And I know that'd be very difficult in today's day and age with as many discs and molds and versions and plastics and whatnot that come out, but it can be difficult for people who maybe have a back stock of discs to see what those are worth without trolling a ton of different collectors groups. Oh, am I going to go to the Buzz collector group? Oh no, am I going to go to the Chris Dickerson Buzz collector group? Oh, am I going to go to the Paul McBeth Buzz collector group? And it is a pain in the ass, but I understand the concept.
Yeah, it's so much. I don't know if it's more volatile or not, but regardless, it's funny. I've never thought about those similarities in the time spent at the card shops versus now the time spent at a disc golf store.
Because the best part is the card shops were laid out like disc golf shops are now. They had rows of singles that you could like finger through and be like, oh, here's one or here's one. And they had a few of them in a glass case.
Yeah, the really valuable
the ones from the 60s and 70s that you didn't normally touch. Or maybe, if it was a little bit later, your Leaf or your Upper Deck, the first, series of those. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, it is very similar feeling.
I not too long ago, I went by in Appleton when I was up there, the card shop that I used to go to.
The one on College?
No. Oh. It was off of Pacific, not far from where I lived, which couldn't have been too far from one of your houses. Off of Pacific and near Oneida and Pacific. I can't remember. Okay. I'll have to look it up. But anyway, just the memories, and like I said, yeah.
See, the card shop I went to was on College, like right near College in Richmond. There was a card shop kind of on the corner there, almost where the I think it was maybe next door, or maybe it even replaced it, the Halloween store. Remember, you know where the Halloween store is, kind of right?
College and Richmond.
Yep.
Huh. Up by Good Company.
Yeah, up by Good Company, like just right around the corner from Good Company. There was a card store that I would go up there. I'd bike up there,
It
and
must have sucked because I didn't go there.
well, you know, you didn't clearly didn't know where to get the good
Yeah,
stuff.
that's what it was. Nonetheless, speaking of cards, Brixton is obviously continuing to push out their packs and their sets and whatnot. I was asked today if I was going to be in Nashville and able to sign some of the autograph cards, but unfortunately I will not be there. I'm going to be here working this weekend, and it sounds like they're continuing to get those all assembled and get them out for everybody. I don't know how I feel about the idea of people getting cards with our faces on them. I don't know that.
Does
I
that
like
lower the value of the complete set?
I don't know, but it feels funny. I'll say that much. All right. Buzz Swan says card shops to me are for Magic the Gathering. Obviously I think in a world that's been transitioned or updated a little bit, yes, Magic, Pokemon. I mean, there weren't Pokemon cards when you and I were 12 years old.
Pokemon is 25 years old this year, last year, something like that. I only know because my kid, we celebrated, in quotes, the 20th year when he was first kind of getting into it. So he was like 7 or 8. The 20th year, and I was thinking, all right, that was like 20. I'm like 25. Yeah, I was 20 years old. There was no way I was collecting Pokemon cards starting Pokemon in college. Yeah. Magic the Gathering came out a few years prior to that when we were in high school, like the end of high school, and it just wasn't our it wasn't our thing.
It would have been more yours than mine. If it was anybody.
Yeah, if it would have been anybody's, it would have been a little more than mine. But even then, I wasn't into like. And not many people were into those type of card games because they didn't really exist other than Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering is one of the first real kind of collectible card games like that. So, but it never tickled my fancy at the time.
Yeah, Captain Moistbeard is saying that Pokemon started in 1996, which meant you and I were just graduating high school at that time. All right. So anyway, clearly sidetracked as you would expect, but yeah, that's how I am a Cubs fan. Way back when, and to be fair, again, because I was just like you said about Wade Boggs. Mark Grace was, this incredible first baseman. Ryan Sandberg was actually like Ryan Sandberg. This is kind of funny. Ryan Sandberg to me is the Ontario Rock of collecting, in that he was the one card I specifically always would seek out and could never acquire enough of. That's how I feel about 90s Ontario Rocks. Like I've got tens of thousands of cards, just like Frisbees, but that's the one card that I would always seek out no matter what. But yeah, I remember the Hawk and Ryan Sandberg and Sean Dunston and Joe Girardi.
Yes.
Just all of those people that played for the Cubs, and then later, as we were just getting into colleges, when Sosa came along for the Cubs, at least I saw him play when I went to one of those White Sox games. I think it was his rookie year that he played with the White Sox, and I think I was at that game.
Yeah, I've
one of those games.
I think I've got his White Sox rookie card somewhere. Maybe
exactly. So
I did look at whether the Brewers were playing the White Sox this year. And they are.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it is an away game for the Brewers. They'll be playing in Chicago.
Okay.
Can we still call it Comiskey Park?
You can. That's not the name of it.
It's not anymore. I have no clue what it's called now.
I feel like it's a cellular company. It's not AT&T Field because that's out in.
Someone will tell us.
No, it's like
I'm going to still call it Comiskey.
Yeah. There you go.
They're at Comiskey.
Okay.
So
that's a road trip maybe some night.
It could be
on the.
Yeah, it's obviously a 3-game series.
Let's just ask if we could get in the press boxes, do a live podcast, and then
right after have Dylan come up after he pitches, oh, you missed it tonight, huh?
Yeah.
So it's U.S. Cellular Arena.
See, I knew it was.
Nice job, nice job, Miller.
Some kind of, and I knew I don't really want to drive by that part of the town.
Sun King says U.S. Cellular. Brian is saying guaranteed rate field.
Oh, I feel like I've seen both on there. I don't know which one's the current one though.
U.S. Cellular, but they changed it to guaranteed rate.
Okay. So now so that means it's guaranteed rate now.
All right. Anyway,
Okay.
it's Comiskey. So
Yeah, exactly.
so anyway,
What was it before Comiskey?
I don't remember.
That was before our time.
Yeah, it
But
was again. It'll always be Comiskey.
that's true.
Because I was actually looking the other night for Brewer games to go to, and I was thinking, oh wow, like, it'd be really cool to go see Dylan pitch if he's coming to town. And just, I wasn't even sure if the Brewers were going to play the White Sox this year because interleague or whatever, but they are unfortunately not where I would probably prefer to go on the south side of Chicago, just a hike to go see a game.
Yeah.
Way easier to do it here.
Yeah, the 15 minutes to get there from here. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes more sense. Ryan Pilcher gives us the updates. The Cell was a decent nickname for it. Guaranteed Rate just doesn't do much for me. I mean, you're talking to a couple of people that live down the road from American Family Field. How uncool and unsexy does that sound?
Yeah, Miller Park is so much better.
Yeah,
as a name.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Just like
no bias.
To me, I understand, like, for basketball, we had the Bradley Center, and nobody knows what Bradley is outside of, like, Milwaukee.
Sure,
a huge philanthropist. And now it's Fiserv Forum.
Yeah,
which
Fiserv Forum.
Which I don't think is a horrible name, because it kind of rolls off. And how many forums do you have?
Sure.
And so I don't mind the Fiserv Forum, even though it's a little difficult to say.
And Ryan, before, so Miller Park was brand new. It was literally built right next door, or I don't even want to call it. It wasn't even a street. It was literally hundreds of feet away from.
It was on the other side of the parking lot.
It was called County Stadium, as in Milwaukee County Stadium. And fun fact that maybe millions of you know or don't, Major League was shot, even though that was, of course, the Indians. Major League was all shot at County Stadium. So Bob Uecker was, so to speak, on his home turf, very much so, while playing the part. But the actual footage of Major League, Charlie Sheen and the whole crew, that was all County Stadium. And I know a couple of people that were extras in that movie way back in the day. Again, that was a little bit before. I mean, we shouldn't have been watching it. Let me put it that way. When that movie came out.
Oh.
I'm sure it was rated R, and we were probably 10. I bet that came out in 88.
Something like that. Because
I'm going to do the math.
We're watching movies with my son now, trying to bring in. So we started with, I think we started
89.
I think we started with Ferris Bueller.
Okay, so that one at least isn't rated R.
Correct. No, and we're not. But this is where I was thinking. Like, I grew up watching Major League.
Yeah.
And I was probably, it came out in 89. So
89. We were 10 or 11.
10 or 11. And I had the cassette tape because there was like 3 or 4 movies we watched just a ton of. It was Major League, a bad horror movie called The Gate, and Goonies. Those are the 3 tapes that I think rotated inside of our VHS player all the time. And so I watched a lot of Major League. And so now I'm trying to find movies to watch with my son. So we watched Ferris Bueller, held up great. Watched Willow, I thought it held up really well. And then we watched E.T., which again held up. It was awesome. I mean, it's still a good movie. But yeah, lots of. I was thinking, I was like, God, Major League would be fun. He's not a sports guy at all, my kid.
Sure.
But it's kind of goes beyond that.
Yeah,
but it's still
a few categories.
It's still dips
still not really.
No,
we shouldn't
even
have been watching.
Even
it,
at 13, I'm like, maybe.
Just
maybe
thinking
I'll have better,
about that movie. Honestly,
maybe
makes
I'll
me
have
chuckle.
better choices than my parents.
Yeah, it makes me chuckle, and I feel like I need to go watch it now. All right. So here's what I will quickly. First of all, someone says, Terry, I heard you're purchasing RV, moving next door to McBeth at the Grand Canyon. No, I won't be. Brooksville is nice. I looked it up. It's about 9,000 people. I guess 10 to 15 earlier tonight. So I looked it up. It's 9,000 people. It's obviously relatively small. Great community and all. Number one recommendation. I cannot say this enough. Deli World. Go to Deli World. I ended up going there last year.
Deli World.
I went there last year just on a whim. Randomly grabbed this place that as I was running around. great sandwich, just unbelievable sandwich. And I was like, I think I remembered it being really good. So myself and my buddy Paul went there this year. Not Paul McBeth, a different Paul, my cameraman Paul. And sure enough, just blown away when we went there during the first day of competition, which was Friday. So good, in fact, we went back Saturday. We both got the same sandwiches.
Wow.
Really enjoyed it. And then we were, of course, disappointed when the woman told us that they were closed on Sunday. Otherwise, we would have went back for a third day. Just great sandwiches. So Deli World is the place to go. But I will not be buying any RVs in Florida. I told you the heat was a little bit too much already this weekend, and it's only going to get hotter. So I'm going to pass on that. Somebody, of course, because he has to stir up controversy and drama, or is looking for it at least, and he likes to be a jerk in his own right. But Disc Blaster does ask the question, as a couple others actually did too. I don't know if, let me find the right way it was worded. Something to the effect of the Lynn's Lynn's twins, otherwise known as sisters. This weekend, they finished. There was there's no spoilers about it at this point. They finished in second and third, and of course, there's a lot of conversation. Natalie Ryan eligible per PDGA rules to play in an A tier, with the rules and the standards that were set forth earlier, late last year, early this year. She's not eligible to compete at Elite Series and Majors. She is eligible to compete at A tiers and below. We saw her playing at the Memorial, of which I had obviously covered. And then this weekend competed at Throwdown the Mountain. Incredibly tight battle. There are multiple times throughout the weekend you had no idea who was possibly going to win this. And then everyone gets to hole 18. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to spoil it a little. You see everywhere, I don't know if there was any threes in FPO. Everywhere from 4s to 12s.
Ugh. I get it.
It's a daunting closing hole.
Yeah. I get that.
And I'm talking the entire division. We saw everything from 4s to 12s, and you're talking about professionals that have been playing for a long time and everything in between. And so hole 18 always provided additional drama. And Ellen said it best on one of the coverages. She said, yeah, you always know 18's looming. It's 17's a difficult hole, and 18 played as the most difficult hole, and it's always looming, and obviously you need it to close out your round. No matter how good or bad the round is going, you have to get through 18. When it was all said and done, it was a very close battle during the final round between Morgan and Natalie. And that ended up going into a playoff and then was ultimately taken down by Natalie. Obviously, the internet is the internet, and there's a lot of conversation about it. I ask that people have civil discourse about it. I don't think that's crazy to ask. And I ask if you don't want to be civil about it, that's okay too. I wish you would take it to your platform, wherever that is. There are plenty of places.
Not on your YouTube comments.
There are so many places to voice your opinion. And I'm not telling you can't have an opinion, and I'm not even telling you your opinion's wrong. I'm just telling you that there are endless places for you to have your conversation that you want to lead and be passionately about on both sides. I just ask that it doesn't consume and eat up all of the YouTube comment section, because it doesn't need to be there. You're so many places. If you have a unique or original take or voice on this, I implore you to use it, but go use it elsewhere.
In general, I find it amusing that people would not necessarily comment, but like that people go back and forth on YouTube comments. Like a thread almost. Like, yeah, it's just like, it's not the platform for that in general.
But people think because you can post, then it is the platform because it accepts comments. And I get it. I mean, it's no secret that YouTube comments are some of the most vile places on the internet, and I understand that. Again, I'm not telling people they can't have an opinion. I wish people would understand that. I'm not telling you what opinion you should have. I just ask that you don't, I'll say clutter up, that if you're going to get personal and nasty on either side of the conversation, because we know everybody can get nasty on both sides of the conversation, for or against her playing in FPO. I just ask that you bring it to your Facebook profile, bring it to your Twitter account. Better yet, best yet, if you love it and think this is the place for it, start your own YouTube channel. Click on your computer, hit live, and talk about it. I support that. I fully support that. So that's all I'm going to say about it.
Well, I think
in terms of it's been amusing that some people want to click on it just to tell me that they're not going to watch it, and that's fine too. Lead your own life.
That's the best comment. I commented here to tell you I'm not watching this.
That's fine too.
I think what
that's let me just real clarify.
Sure.
Somebody I think literally just posted minutes ago maybe on one of them, and I'll use this as an example.
Call them up. Name.
No, I'll use this as an example. Maybe I can't find it. Maybe this is a bad time for an example if I don't have it handy. But it essentially said, I don't agree with the decision that Natalie can play an FPO. What's so uncivil about that? And I didn't reply, but I'm thinking in my head, that's not uncivil.
That's fine.
Now, if you suggest that somebody should go harm themselves or somebody else should go do something drastic, or that's just, over the line, and of course over the line subjective to everybody, that's what I'm just asking you not do on my channel in any given direction. Civil discourse can happen. I think we've said that 100 times on the show. Civil discourse, I'm good with it happening. Just civil's the key word there, right? And discourse,
it's almost impossible.
That's the problem.
With this type of thread on this platform. I will say I have seen a lot of civil discourse about it. It's just not necessarily on YouTube in a comment section. It's not the place where it tends to happen. What I want people to do, Terry, is not comment on it. Comment somewhere else and link to your video. I think that's the best move. I really dislike this video, and link it.
I like that.
Make sure you link it.
Yes. Share, link, subscribe.
Share, link, subscribe, and tell people how bad this is for whatever reason you think it's bad or good.
Yeah.
Just do us a favor and do that.
That actually works often as well. So
that's what you should pin on your next comment. If you dislike this, please let people know,
share
and comment and share.
So that's that is that. Natalie's playing by the rules that are in front of her, and I completely understand that people are still frustrated by that. And if you want to address the PDGA, that's fine. They're the ones that are making the rules. People are running tournaments. Mike Barnett, I'm sure, took some pressure, some heat this weekend. Mike Barnett is running a PDGA A-tier event that is eligible for Natalie to play in. Mike Barnett is doing his diligence as a tournament director. I'm doing my diligence as a contracted videographer, editor, and commentator. These are all of our jobs, and we're all playing by the rules that are set forth in front of us. I understand a lot of people dislike the rules, but I've also said a million times, let's argue about the policy or the rules instead of the person. And I think that gets us a lot closer to, civil discourse. So there you go. Yes, Galactic Conqueror says, yep, if you feel strongly, then please contact the PDGA and be productive. Otherwise, play on. That's another good way to put it.
Thumbs up on that comment.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put on it.
Terry, do we have anything else going on?
Yes.
What do we have?
It is, believe it or not, a very, very special day. It is the 9-year anniversary. As of midnight here on the 5th of April is the 9-year anniversary of Smashbox TV's first ever live disc golf broadcast.
I got a kick out of something on Reddit. I don't know if you saw it or not. Someone had made a post, hey, don't complain about DGN when we had to live through this. and it was a video of, I think, one of our first broadcasts. It might have been our, I don't know if it was our first, but it had a giant Legacy logo in the upper right-hand corner.
Yep.
And I looked at it and I went, wow.
Yeah, it could have been any one of our first 5 broadcasts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, we had that logo was big.
They got their money's worth.
They definitely got their money's worth. And on our live broadcast, it had all of the camera information. Like someone had hit a display button.
Nice.
And so it had like battery power and all.
We
like,
wanted to update the plot. We wanted to keep the world informed.
We wanted everyone to know what white balance we were at. And I laughed.
On our single camera.
On our single
camera
and
operator.
Someone nailed the camera too. Someone's like, yeah, that's an XA10. I'm like, you're right. It was an XA10, a Canon XA10. I don't know.
Was that maybe on the description as well?
I didn't see it, but maybe it was. And I briefly looked at it. So I got a chuckle out of that. And I laughed. I said, yeah, that brings me back to the good old days. Back when we had like a 15-second delay between what we were seeing and what the cameramen were showing us, which is why that stays up for so long, because when it comes up, I don't know for 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's then when I finally see it, I have to tell Terry, who's probably, or whoever's filming, like, hey, can you hit that display button again? It kind of came up, hoping we weren't running out of batteries at the time as well, which we were. So I got a really good kick out of that Reddit thread. And of course some people were jerks, like, just because it was bad then doesn't mean it can't be bad now. I took it as a compliment that look how far we've come, and look at the humble beginnings moving on to now. I laughed at it. I did not take any offense to it at all.
Yeah. If they only knew it was 3 people, 1 camera, and a $600 bleeding budget compared to the to the 8 or 10 cameras plus drones and gimbals and 22 people and $20,000 budget a day or whatever the F it is. Yes, it has come a long way, albeit not perfect still, but it has come a long way. So 9 times. 9 years today. It was of course out in California, Veterans Park, the Silmar Open. It was a C tier. Of course, we filmed a C tier.
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you?
They're the only ones that probably led, and it was sponsored by Legacy.
It was sponsored. Legacy, shout out as always, not just today, but so many days, renting that incredibly expensive live backpack so that we could do the live broadcasting. And they wrote a check, and that allowed us to rent the unit for ultimately 5 weekends. And then we were live for 4 of them. 4 out of 5 weekends.
It was a 1 month
broadcast.
It was a 1 month rental that we stretched for the 5-week month.
Yeah,
because you had it from like whatever, like April 1st through May 1st or whatever. And we found one with 5 weekends, and we covered 4 out of 5 weekends.
Yes. The events we covered that I traveled to all of which, do you remember them?
Silmar
the first weekend.
We went to Bowling Green.
Yep, Bowling Green AMs.
Bowling Green AMs.
Because why wouldn't we film Bowling Green AMs?
The one in Illinois, not Battle of Bedford.
Yeah, that course didn't exist yet.
No. Didn't we do one in
Close. Yeah, partially. Yes, technically. We filmed the Rumble.
The Rumble, that's what it was.
Which is right in the Quad Cities of Illinois and in Indiana, Iowa.
And then
so we were at the Rumble.
And then didn't we do the Minnesota AM Championships?
The Minnesota AM Championships, where we first met Jordan Castro, along with a number of others.
Mm-hmm.
So 4 out of 5 weekends, we were live at those 4 different events. And
how much should we charge for that?
Zero. How much did we lose?
Oh, God.
Thousands. And for the bonus question that some of you might remember, the Bowling Green AMs was special, not only because it was the Bowling Green AMs and nobody had covered amateurs live at that point.
Why did we
Our final round, because we wanted the practice. I rode in a fucking Greyhound.
I know.
I rode in the back of a bus to get down there, to save every penny just to get down there, carrying all of the equipment with me. Multiple buses on a Greyhound to go from Wisconsin down to Bowling Green, Kentucky, 13 hours away in a car. And when it was all said and done and we filmed the finals, we had myself, and Avery Jenkins commentating. We had Simon Lizotte the day before
do whole previews.
Help us did whole previews where he threw the shot, we filmed it, talked about it, and used that as a whole preview. Drones didn't even exist at that time. And Jamie Thomas, who works now for Disc Golf Network, was our cameraman.
So, I mean, we can basically take credit for Simon, maybe not Avery, but Jamie Thomas.
Yeah. And I paid Jamie Thomas. I bought a pitcher of beer for him and for the three of us. I think that was the payment, was a pitcher of beer for us to be live for that final 9 out in the middle of some field in the back of a bar, which it wasn't a normal course at that time. That was how Bowling Green went. And I will never forget it. That was also the day, as I talked about it hours ago, that was also the day Jamie Thomas told me of like where audio levels are supposed to be at for YouTube videos. I was like, oh, I didn't know. I had no idea. I had never treated a single video for audio I'd never even looked at the audio levels. And he was telling me the threshold in which you should try to shoot for to get into your audio levels. So what did I say today on Instagram? We're always learning. We are always learning. So that was it the Waba Bar? It was where they just had the finals that year. So this was again 2014, and it was like a bar. And then I feel like literally it just felt like there were some holes out in the back area of it. And that sounds about right. The Waba Bar. It was not like Kariakis or White Park or any of the courses that I actually knew. It felt like I don't think they were temp. Yeah. I don't think it was a temp course, but it definitely was relatively open. So, final 9 course was behind it. Well, there you go. That was probably it. So there you go, folks. A little trip down memory lane, and in 365 days or whatever our Tuesday night is a year from now, we'll probably tell the same stories. But those are absolutely the most crazy, humble
building blocks.
Yeah, just God.
It would
just think if we would have just quit,
which a lot of people told us to do.
Yes, that's very true.
Why are you showing me this crap? And I mean, to be fair, Disc Golf Planet was kind of doing the bigger events, like the majors, so to speak, and a few of the N
lined
tours,
up too. Yeah,
a few of the NTs, and it.
Our production rivaled what they were doing,
correct,
for the most part, and we were doing it on a fraction of the budget, like literally hundreds of dollars compared to tens of thousands. And
because I think at the time we had heard that they were charging like 15 or 20,000 to cover like Worlds, which we didn't.
Yeah, we were also trying to cut our teeth and do whatever we could to get started. So
so funny. It's just interesting to think where would we be if we hadn't done that? Would somebody else have picked up live? Would Planet have kept going?
Maybe my personal YouTube channel would actually be bigger and thriving because I wouldn't have diverted
all that attention,
split so much attention into live, and essentially pack up my channel for 6 or 9 months out of the year and not ever cared about live.
Well, Joe Miss thanks you for that. Damn it. Patreon.com/SmashboxTV. You can be eligible.
You can make up for all the money we lost a decade ago. We need it, damn it.
Support our podcast. The only way we support this podcast is through Patreon.com. So we want to say thank you to everybody who is a Patreon supporter. All you people at the $1 level and up who get access to all the giveaways, $2 level and up who get access to who get your name put on the broadcast at the end, $3 and up who get our yearly support disc. Speaking of which, I need to talk to you about that, Terry. We have a few people that are possibly looking for a 2020 disc, one person.
Ooh.
Anyway, so we might have to dig that out of the archives. And $5 and up and gets you one of the on the custom mini here in the studio in your picture.
Hi
right,
guys, hey everybody,
and your picture at the beginning of the show.
Oh, they got uglier.
No, they stayed the same age, Terry. You got older.
Ah, damn it.
Yeah, those don't age, which is kind of funny.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, look how young you look in one of those. Anyway, patreon.com/SmashboxTV if you want to help support. We tonight have eligible the other thing, you know what you get when you're a Patreon supporter? You get your own custom feed to the podcast with no ads.
Dang.
Unlike the millions of dollars we're making in ads now.
Yes.
Not true. We still have not really earned almost a single penny. I need to contact their
We got to make up for that too.
150 people eligible for tonight's giveaway, Terry Miller.
All righty. I am excited.
Let's refresh the page, and we're going to go 150. Terry, what number should we generate?
Oh, it's the 5th.
Fifth number?
Yep. The 5th number, April 5th.
150. All right. So the first number is 145. Second number is 72. Third number is 42. Fourth number is 63. Terry, we going higher or lower than 63?
Higher.
God, you just never take a risk. I'm going to go lower.
I guess you could be
And
wrong.
147. I was right. Number 147. Clearly, I nailed it.
How'd you sort them?
By email address.
So
at the very bottom, his email address starts with a W, but it's Mike Schwartz.
Heck yeah, it is.
Congratulations, Mike Schwartz.
I like it.
Mike, we'll reach out to you. I think we have your address here because you're a higher level supporter that puts their address in there. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, we will double check that we have your correct address,
and we'll get you one of the discs. I think that's what we have right now. Yeah, I think it's a disc tonight. So congratulations, Mike.
We very much appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, Spockhauser said it right. I mean, it might be a 6-time world champion, Terry Miller, if we could be living in, had I just, kept my focus instead of this media BS.
That's true. You should have kept
That's
your
where
focus.
the real money would have been for me.
Pro Masters championships?
I don't know.
No.
No.
We missed that boat.
And we missed that. That boatload of money.
Even if we were really good in our day, and you were solid. You were a solid player. You were never like world champion caliber. Sorry, Tara. But even if you were, look at the guys like who won world championships back then. Obviously, EMAC doing great, but you've got people like a Cam Todd and a Ron Russell. Even Climo, he had an interview with the Tour Life guys. They're not raking in the cash. So even had you been phenomenal, Terry,
I didn't want that early money.
That's good. You wanted to save up for that late, big media money.
I am.
You knew where it was.
I've just been holding off to cash in on this Patreon action weekly. That's what I'm here for, and we very much appreciate it. Right. Someone caught my first ever live show. Just got to work in the morning here, even though it's the last few seconds. Appreciate it. Thanks for joining, even though we're about to close things out.
Yep.
Could have stole one from Climo and Schultz and early McBeth. Nah, not so much. Barry Schultz was already unbeatable here in Wisconsin.
Yeah, he was beating us up.
He was beating us. I had to play against him once or twice. I know at least one specific time I played in a tournament in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, one of our Wisconsin events, bigger Wisconsin events at the time. I finished second, and it legitimately felt like I won the tournament because you beat all the normal people, right? Like, you didn't plan to beat Barry, and I will never forget that feeling of like, I kind of feel like I won. I got $215 for second. He got $345 or whatever it was probably, but I felt like I genuinely won the tournament.
I felt really great. The one time I played in Mad City and I tied him
for a round.
Yes,
I remember that. I remember that.
And then the next round we played together and he beat me by like 18 strokes. I think he shot.
What about the back nine?
I think he shot like 8 down at high stand and I shot like 8 over. And again, 8 over was not a great score. 8 under is a good score. But 8 over was, I'll say I didn't go home crying at 8 over, but it was like not great. But Barry beat me by like 16 strokes or whatever it was. That's accurate. About right.
GPO Studio says, please tell me third place finisher was named Larry or something. Barry, Terry, Larry, podium. No, I don't think
Larry Ast would have taken.
Not Larry Ast, not Larry Kempen. He wasn't playing enough at that point. He's still playing amateur. What other Larrys did we? Not Larry Wright didn't play disc golf here in Wisconsin at that time. I don't think there was a Larry. My dad didn't play.
It's probably like Newhouse or something.
Yeah, or one of the Budzines or something like
Budzine,
that.
or maybe a Drummond.
There was no, and we didn't have any Garys either that were doing it. There was, shoot, I don't remember what it was, but there was one of the comments that came in yesterday on my page on some of the MPO coverage was something to the effect of, my dad's name is also Terry, and he doesn't make me as happy as you do with this coverage or something. It was something along those lines, and trust me when I say it gave me a good chuckle, so I certainly appreciate that. And no, we didn't have any Harrys. All right, guys, I think that's about it. I think it's been a pretty solid night of a lot of story time about baseball, and baseball cards, but nonetheless, Brixton cards, get them while they're hot. Disc Golf Pro Tour cards, get them while they're hot. I do see a lot of excitement coming out about those, and that is kind of what led me off on a tangent.
When you get one of our cards, take a photo, show it, share it.
Yes. Before you use it as kindling, right?
Before you put it in your bike spoke.
There you go. That's how they're still doing it. Yeah, Terry, open the door. Go Giants. All right, don't get silly. If you don't got Will the Thrill Clark and Kevin Mitchell, you don't have a team. That's what I'll say. That's all that matters when it comes to the Giants. And F that Barry Bonds fella. For Johnny V, I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy. That's a little trip down memory lane. 9 years ago today, Smashbox. And guys, we seriously wouldn't be here without you guys. Some of your constructive criticisms, some of them not so constructive, but one way or another, we've been here, and we do it because we love the game, and we love all of you guys, and we hope we bring you at least a slice of entertainment and a little bit of disc golf knowledge to you. I'm the Disc Golf Guy. That's Johnny V. We'll see you next week when you step inside the Smashbox.